Chapter 20. This. Sui could not help but scratch his head, thinking that he was really careless. In fact, it was not Sui's fault. He did not have much contact with girls on Earth, plus he was always with cold machines and data, so he was very slow in this regard. And this little slave's body was too thin and did not develop well at all. He could not see any characteristics of a girl. If it were not for the special circumstances, Sui would have continued to misunderstand. Seeing Sui's awkward expression, Steele suddenly laughed. Hey, Sui, when I saw such a little girl in your house, I thought you were like those aristocratic prostitutes, with a special hobby. Now it seems that I misunderstood you. Sui could not help but roll his eyes. What special hobby? Even if he had that kind of thought, he would not be interested in such a bean-sprout-like child, right? Don't talk about me. First tell me how you came to my house? Sui asked in a bad mood. How did you know I live here? And if you think I'm a prostitute, why are you still here? And what do you mean by cooking for me? You have a lot of questions, Steele muttered. Thanks to you, I have completed the piano model. I came to find you and wanted to invite you out for dinner as a thank you, but I didn't expect to see you asleep. Seeing how tired you were, I couldn't bear to wake you up. So I thought about it and decided to cook you a meal. What do you think? Seeing how messy your house is, I don't think anyone has ever cooked for you? Are you very thankful to me? Steele's face was as beautiful as a flower, coupled with her cute smile. It made Sui's eyes light up, and he could not help but stare blankly. I say, you want to treat me to a meal, but you use the materials I bought and the tools in my house. Isn't this too frugal? TSK, I personally cook. This is a treatment that even Grandpa rarely gets to enjoy. Be content. Steele snorted and pointed to the room inside. Go and call that little girl out for dinner. Although she shouldn't be eating with us as a slave, I don't think you see her as a slave. Of course, slaves shouldn't exist in this world. Sui sighed, shook his head, and walked into the room. Hearing Sui's subconscious sigh, Steele was slightly taken aback. Her eyes sparkled as she looked at Sui's back. By the way, Sui, other than treating you to a meal to express my gratitude, I also have something to inform you of, Steele suddenly said during the meal. What is it? It can't be that great magician Camilla is dissatisfied with me taking too much time off, so he decided to fire me, right? Sui asked back in an uncaring voice. What, who said he was going to fire you? Steele stared at him and pointed at Sui. Let me tell you, Grandpa thinks very highly of you. Although you refuse to be his apprentice, he said that your talent for magic is high enough and you always have some novel ideas. Staying in the magic tower might give him some inspiration, so how could he bear to fire you? That's good. That's not firing me. What is it that you need to inform me of? Listen well. Sui, although I don't know why you don't care about increasing your magic power, I have to tell you very seriously that since you are already a magician, then in the signs, your magic rank is your everything. Steele's face became incomparably serious. It could be seen that her words were very serious. There are less than 3 months until the annual Sorcerers Guild certification exam. Grandpa is a 3-star great magician recognized by the Sorcerers Guild, so he has 3 recommendations. He has decided to give one of them to you and recommend you to participate in the Sorcerers Guild certification exam. Do you understand the meaning of this? Sui very honestly shook his head. I don't understand. Steele couldn't maintain her serious expression and angrily shouted, Are you stupid? You don't even understand this? If it's a candidate recommended by a great magician, the Sorcerers Guild will relax the standards a bit during the certification exam. In other words, as long as you have this recommendation, it will be much easier for you to pass the certification exam compared to normal magicians. And then? Become a magician whose strength doesn't match my rank? Sui asked back. Steele was stunned and couldn't say anything for a while. This was because she suddenly found that Su Yi's question had hit the nail on the head, and she couldn't refute it at all. Seeing Steele's speechless appearance, Su Yi revealed a faint smile and reached his hand out to Steele. "Give it to me." "Give you what?" Steele asked in a daze. "The thing that represents the recommendation? I can't just go to the Sorcerers' Guild and tell them that I was recommended by great magician Camilla and the Sorcerers' Guild would believe me, right?" Steele asked in a stunned voice. "Didn't you say you didn't want this recommendation?" "Who said I didn't want it?" "But you just said." "That's what I said, but I'm very clear on the meaning of this exam," Su Yi said with a smile. "I'm already 27 this year. I'm not an idealistic child like you. How could I not know how to take advantage of this opportunity? Then again, this also represents great magician Camilla. As well as your good intentions. If I reject you, wouldn't I be wasting your good intentions?" Steele looked at Su Yi in a daze for a while before suddenly slapping the table. She suddenly stood up and angrily said, "You're the child." After saying this, she left without even looking back. Seeing Steele's disappearing back, Su Yi couldn't help shaking his head with a smile. "It seems like this is her taboo. I can't easily say it in front of her in the future." Turning around, he saw the little slave looking at him in a daze, not knowing what to do. Su Yi revealed a faint smile and said to her, "I'm sorry, I've been busy all these days and haven't had time to talk to you. How is it? Are you used to this place?" The little slave first shook her head, but then she suddenly thought of something and forcefully nodded. Su Yi slightly knit his brows. "You can't speak?" The little slave nodded. "What does this mean? Can you speak or can't you?" The little slave slowly opened her mouth, and after a while, she spat out a few syllables. I can speak." Based on her slightly hoarse voice and her stuttering, it seemed like she hadn't spoken in a long time, so she wasn't very used to speaking right now. Su Yi thought for a bit before pouring a spoonful of meat soup into her bowl. "You don't need to be afraid here. Although I bought you, I won't treat you like a slave and won't hit you, so you can be assured." The little slave looked at the meat soup in her bowl and gave a gentle nod. I know you are a good person." "Ha, I've been given a good person card." Su Yi gave a soft laugh. "That's right, what is your name? I still haven't asked yet." Vivian. Vivian? That's a good name," Su Yi praised. Seeing the painful look on the little slave's face, he knew that this name must have triggered some painful memories. He shook his head and didn't ask anything else. He knew that this little slave's life before must have been very difficult, causing a serious shadow in her heart. If he wanted to dissolve it, he needed to slowly work hard over a long period of time, so he couldn't rush it. After eating, the little slave took the initiative to clean up the dishes. Su Yi thought about it and didn't stop her. Letting her do some things now would make it easier for her to integrate into her new life, which was actually a good thing for her. Su Yi did a few exercises as usual before returning to the workshop. The magic capping machine and the magic thread rolling machine had already been developed, which meant that the second version of the variable speed magic fan was about to enter mass production. But before this, Su Yi still had a bunch of problems to solve. Even if it only had the word variable speed compared to the first version, the magic array and the overall design of the fan were very complicated, so there were many data that needed to be calculated again. But there were many things that he couldn't rely on others to complete because he was the only one who was proficient in both magic arrays and the mechanical industry. He was also the only one who could perfectly combine the two. Talents are hard to come by. Thinking of the large amount of problems that needed to be solved, Su Yi couldn't help letting out a long sigh. If this world had as many highly educated talents with a complete knowledge system as there were on Earth, then his work would definitely not be so difficult. But thinking about it, if signs had as many talents as on Earth, Sui wouldn't have been able to earn a large amount of money with just a magic fan that didn't require much technology. As the saying goes, you can't have both the fish and the bear's paw. Sui shook his head with a bitter smile. When he was about to focus on his research again, a tray suddenly came from the side. Seeing the steaming hot cup of tea on the tray, Sui said with a faint smile, "Vivian, you don't need to care about me, go and sleep by yourself." Vivian placed the cup of tea in Sui's hand. She lowered her head and softly said, "Serve? Serve the master, it is. It is my duty." Sui smiled and was too lazy to keep persuading her, so he turned back to work. Vivian was a bit cautious as she stood by Sui's side with her head lowered, but after a while, she looked up at Sui, who was focused on his work with a curious look. This new master, he really was much better to her than the previous master. Only, why did he have to work so hard? Chapter 21. On the land rented from Viscount Leslie, the factory that had been built for less than 3 days was already bustling with activity. Actually calling this place a factory was too much of an exaggeration, because this so-called factory was only a single building, and it was only a simple one-story wooden house that took up less than 500 square meters. If one had to call it, it was just a small workshop. Of course, this was something that couldn't be helped. Time was tight, and it had only been less than 10 days since they rented this land from Viscount Leslie. Hines being able to gather enough people to build such a large wooden house in such a short period of time was already quite impressive. If his thoughts were a bit more flexible and he had a bit more foresight, he could be considered a very suitable CEO. Sui looked at Hines, who was busy supervising the production in the distance, and felt a bit of regret in his heart. Talents were hard to come by. Not only were they researchers, but they were also managers. Sui was only worried about Hines right now, so he had given all the management to Hines. It should be said that Hines was doing quite well. Whether it was production, sales, or logistics, he did everything in an orderly manner. He didn't drag down the overall progress and smoothly progressed. But that was it. In the past, Hines was just an ordinary grocery store owner. His horizons were limited. He could do some trivial things very well, but he didn't have a higher level of knowledge, which allowed him to take the initiative to make some changes and respond to it. Many times, Sui had no choice but to pay attention to the overall situation and give him some pointers, so Sui also spent a large amount of energy on these things. If there was a more suitable manager than Hines, not only would it free Sui, allowing him to focus on research and long-term planning, it would also free Hines, allowing him to focus on production and logistics, which would greatly increase efficiency. Where can I find this kind of talent? Sui was a bit worried. "Chairman, can I discuss something with you?" A young voice suddenly came from the side, breaking Sui's thoughts. Sui turned his head and was slightly surprised. "Oren, have you finished your work?" This slightly chubby kid was one of the 30 students he had hired from Baron Ricto Magic Academy. He was different from the other 29 students from normal families. This student named Oren Zedeman was the son of Banta City's Viscount Zedeman. He was the son of a noble. When Sui first saw this guy's information, he found it very strange. With this guy's family background, why would he need to work under him? Oren's response made Sui a bit speechless. He said that he wanted to experience life and was very interested in the magic fan, so he wanted to study it. Sui felt at that time that this kid had signed up for fun. Once he found out that the work in the factory was boring, he wouldn't be able to keep going. Sui wanted to reject him, but he didn't have a suitable reason. This was because this was the first batch of students he had recruited from Baron Ricto Magic Academy, and Oren was a famous magic genius in the school. If he couldn't find a good reason to reject him, it would affect his future recruitment work. Then again, even a student with a rich family background like Oren, who had outstanding talent in magic, was willing to work here. This was a kind of stimulation for the other students of the school. Look, even Oren was willing to come, so why wouldn't the rest of you be willing? So Sui recruited Oren with a bit of worry. Who would have thought that after a week of work, Oren would not only persevere, he would also meticulously complete all the work that was given to him. Because of his outstanding talent in magic, the magic arrays he completed were more accurate than the other students, and the effects were also better. With this performance, Sui couldn't help changing his view of him. I've already finished the morning's work, Oren loudly replied. Sui looked at where the other students were working and found that there were also several students who had finished their morning's work and were currently resting. He nodded, very good. Then what did you want to discuss with me? Is there a request for work? Just tell me, as long as it's a reasonable request, I will agree. There is a request for work. For example, it's too hot here, so I strongly request that you place a large-scale frost array here, otherwise it will affect our work efficiency and enthusiasm. Sui revealed a bitter smile and shook his head as he said, I'm afraid I can't agree to this. You have a large-scale frost array at home, so you should know how much it costs to set it up and maintain it, right? I can't afford it right now. But bear with it for now. When I develop the magic air conditioner, the situation will be much better. Magic air conditioner? Oren's eyes lit up as he excitedly asked, What is that? Is it a new type of magic machine? Chairman, can you tell me the details? I'm very interested. Sui knew that he had let it slip in a moment of carelessness, so he quickly waved his hand. This thing is only an idea right now, I haven't started researching it yet. At least it won't be ready this summer, so don't ask about it. Oh, then it's still a secret. Oren gave a disappointed nod, but he obediently didn't ask anything else. Alright, let's not talk about this. Based on your tone, you aren't here to make a request, so what do you want to discuss? Sui quickly changed the topic. Hearing this question, Oren suddenly revealed an excited look. He took out a blueprint from his chest and handed it over. Chairman, look, this is the revolving wind array that I researched last night. What do you think? Revolving wind array. Sui looked at Oren with a strange gaze. He thought that your job right now is to draw the revolving wind array. Why are you researching this thing? Of course, he wasn't dumb enough to destroy Oren's enthusiasm. He took the blueprint and looked it over before giving a E sound and seriously looking it over. After a while, Sui looked up and looked at Oren in a daze. This revolving wind array was researched by you alone? Oren stuck out his chest and said with a proud look, It was just me alone, no one helped me. It was like Sui was meeting Oren for the first time as he looked over him. He suddenly reached out to pat his shoulder and praised, Good kid, no wonder Director Shearer said that you are a rare magic genius at Baron Ricto Magic Academy and wanted me to take care of you. Oren laughed and pointed at the blueprint in Sui's hand. Chairman, you still haven't told me what this magic array is like? I feel that if we change it like this, it should be a bit better than the previous revolving wind array, but I'm not certain. Sui laughed. Can't you see that I'm praising you? Of course the answer is yes. Let me tell you, although I haven't tested this change before, I can infer that just with this change, the power consumption of the magic fan will be a bit lower compared to before. It's only a bit lower? Oren was very disappointed. Chairman, it can only be said that the magic array you designed is too outstanding, there are almost no flaws at all. I tried my best and could only make this small change. Sui forcefully patted Oren's shoulder and said with a serious look, You mustn't look down on this small change. I can honestly tell you that for magic machines, even the slightest change, no, it should be more accurate to say that it's an improvement, it has a very important meaning. Don't look down on this small change, because it can reduce the magic crystal consumption of the magic fan by a bit. It will also allow the people who buy the magic fan to save more money when using it. For us, this means that people will be more willing to buy the magic fan. The most important thing is that this means that the quality of our Shinfei brand magic fan will be higher. The meaning behind this is not something that you can understand right now. Oren was stunned by Su Yi's words. He thought that he had only made a small change, so why did it seem like it had a large meaning when the chairman said this? Thinking about it, he became happy again. He had only changed the revolving wind array out of interest. He didn't think that much. Being able to obtain Su Yi's approval was already enough to satisfy him. Su Yi suddenly grabbed Oren's arm and pulled him to where the students were working. Faced with the doubtful gazes of the other 29 students and Heinz, Su Yi raised Oren's arm high up and said in a loud voice, "Everyone listen up, Oren has just proposed a change to the revolving wind array. After my confirmation, this change will have a positive effect on the magic fan. So I announce that because of Oren's change, he will receive a special research reward from the company. The reward is 10 gold coins." Chapter 22. As soon as Su Yi's voice fell, everyone went into an uproar. 10 gold coins? That much? God! What kind of change did this brat Auron make? He's actually being rewarded with 10 gold coins at once? If I knew this earlier, I would have studied it as well. I am very confident in magic arrays. That's right, 10 gold coins. If I can obtain this reward, I can let my mother properly rest for a while. It had to be known that these students only earned 2 silver coins for each magic array they drew. If they wanted to obtain 10 gold coins, they would need to draw an entire 500 magic arrays. For these students whose family backgrounds couldn't compare to Auron's, 10 gold coins was a large number. Hearing the discussions of the students, Su Yi looked at Heinz, who was in a daze on the side. Heinz immediately understood and quickly walked to the side. After a while, he came back with a small paper bag in his hand and handed it to Auron. "Auron, this is your reward. You can count it." "There's no need, Chairman. I only studied magic arrays out of interest. This reward. I don't want it." Auron shook his head and waved his hand, not wanting to take this reward. Although he was usually very proud, he also knew that there was a gap between him and these classmates because of his family background. If he received this reward in front of everyone, it would be even more likely that he would be completely separated from everyone else. This was not a happy experience. "Take it. This is the company's rule, it's not just for you." Su Yi took the paper bag and placed it in Auron's chest. "Come, count it. Is there 10 gold coins inside?" Seeing Su Yi's firm attitude, Auron could only open the paper bag with an awkward expression. He poured out all the gold coins inside and counted them one by one. Looking at the dazzling gold coins in Auron's hands, the eyes of the other students couldn't help but light up. Su Yi revealed a faint smile and raised his voice again. "Listen well, I just said that this rule isn't just for Auron alone. As long as any of you can provide a method to improve the magic fan, you can also receive this reward." "President, will any method work?" A tall boy raised his hand and asked. "As long as it's related to the magic fan and can improve the magic fan, it's fine," Su Yi said with a serious look. "Of course, this is under the premise that it doesn't affect your work. If you only think about these things and delay the work you should be doing, affecting the production progress, not only will I deduct your pay, but according to the contract, I may even fire you directly." He had no choice but to be the bad guy first. Otherwise, if these students were to get hot-headed and only focus on researching the improvement plan, they would forget about their most basic work. Then, the gains would not make up for the losses. The students looked at each other, then suddenly lowered their heads and began to work seriously. Compared to before, their enthusiasm for work seemed to have increased a lot. Heinz glanced at Auron, who had returned to his post and buried his head in work. He whispered to Su Yi, 10 gold coins? Is it worth it?" Su Yi smiled. "Of course it's worth it. Heinz, remember, research and improvement like this is of great significance to any product. This policy will continue in the future and it won't be limited to the magic array. Perhaps we will include the entire magic fan production process in the future. If there are any improvements to the magic fan's design, we will reward them and encourage them to do this. Heinz said in a confused voice, "Weren't these things completed by you? Could it be that you think that the things you researched can't compare to these kids who haven't even grown hair yet? No matter how powerful I am only a single person. A single person's strength is limited, but the wisdom of a crowd is endless. You mustn't look down on these students. Perhaps one of them will become a great magic mechanical engineer in the future." Heinz looked at the students who were working in full swing and shook his head. Why couldn't he see it? When Heinz was about to discuss the next step with Sui, there was a loud shout that came from the door, "Mr. Sui." The two of them were stunned. To use such a formal name to call Sui, it seemed like only Viscount Leslie's old butler would do it. Turning around to look, the one who suddenly appeared at the door was Butler Brunei. Who else could it be? Sui quickly came forward to greet him. "Butler Brunei, why are you here? Is there something you need?" Butler Brunei looked into the wooden house before taking out a golden-edged invitation for Sui. "Mr. Sui, I represent my master, Lord Viscount Leslie, to sincerely invite you to the Viscount Manor as a guest this afternoon." Sui was stunned. He and Heinz looked at each other, not understanding what was going on. This Viscount Leslie who didn't even show up when renting the land, why would he suddenly want to invite Sui as a guest? ####. When he saw Viscount Leslie, Sui was a bit surprised. Since he was renting Viscount Leslie's land, Sui naturally had to understand a bit about this Lord Viscount. From the information that Heinz had gathered, Sui knew that Viscount Leslie was very famous in the circle of nobles in Banta City. He had just turned 30 this year, and because of his handsome appearance and strong family background, he was very popular with the noble ladies and young misses in Banta City. He was a famous playboy in Banta City. Sui thought that this fellow would have a small white face, looking confident but actually being frivolous. He was afraid that he would be very arrogant and definitely not someone who was easy to get along with. But after seeing him, Sui found that his impression of him was a bit different. The fellow in front of him was indeed handsome, but his features were good. With thick eyebrows and large eyes, he looked very righteous at first glance. His skin wasn't the pale white that was popular among nobles, rather it was bronze and even a bit dark. He was tall and well-proportioned. There was no need to mention that he normally worked out, so he definitely wasn't someone that those weak noble young masters could compare to. Just with a single glance at Viscount Leslie, Sui immediately stopped looking down on him. This Viscount Leslie, he might not be the same as those arrogant noble young masters he had met before. While Sui was sizing up Viscount Leslie, he was also sizing up Sui. It seemed like he was very interested in Sui, seriously looking over Sui from top to bottom several times before pointing at the small table beside him. "Please sit." Sui respectfully gave a bow like a commoner before sitting down in front of Viscount Leslie. Seeing Sui's performance, Viscount Leslie gave a laugh. "There's no need to be this restrained. I'm not like those old men who care about troublesome etiquette. You can be as casual as you want. Look, I'm not entertaining you in the living room, so this isn't considered a formal occasion. Just treat it as a friend inviting you over for a meal." Sui looked at him, feeling a bit strange why he was this polite to him. Based purely on status, Sui was a very normal citizen and the other side was a viscount of the Lampari kingdom, a true noble. Even if Sui had the status of a magician, on the continent, magicians weren't that rare and normal magicians weren't that important. In Banta City, only a great magician like Camilla was respected by everyone. Not to mention that Sui hadn't even passed the Sorcerers Guild's certification exam, so he wasn't worth mentioning at all. From a business point of view, Sui was renting Viscount Leslie's territory, so he was under the control of others. He should be polite to Viscount Leslie. Lord Viscount, I wonder, what matter do you have for suddenly summoning me? Sui couldn't help asking. We'll talk about this later. Come, let's eat first. Viscount Leslie waved his hand and didn't reply. Sui thought about it before letting go of his thoughts and enjoying his lunch under Viscount Leslie's invitation. It was like Viscount Leslie said. He didn't entertain Sui in the living room of the manor, rather it was in a small wooden house beside a pond. The meal he entertained wasn't that sumptuous, it was just a few appetizers. Of course, these appetizers were very exquisite, but they were not something that any restaurant in Banta City could compare to. Viscount Leslie was very friendly during the meal. He greeted Sui while chatting with Sui. He talked about all kinds of things with him, not repeating the same thing for half a day. It showed that he had much more knowledge than normal citizens. After lunch was over, the servants took away all the utensils and brought out 2 cups of perfectly chilled fruit juice. Viscount Leslie finally stopped chatting and looked at Sui before suddenly saying, Sui, I've heard Butler Brunei say that your magic fan workshop has already started working? It's here. Sui's heart skipped a beat. He took a sip of the fruit juice and moistened his throat while organizing his thoughts. After pausing for a bit, he replied with a nod, Yes. I've also heard that your workshop is producing quite a few magic fans each day. Can you tell me how many magic fans you can produce each day? After asking this, Viscount Leslie waved his hand. Of course, if it's a secret, it's fine if you don't tell me. Sui revealed a faint smile. This isn't a secret. Right now we're currently producing 150 each day, no more and no less. 150 each day. Let me count it, you've already been working for 3 days, so that's 450. If everything goes as smoothly today, that is indeed the number. Sui nodded. Then I have a question. Viscount Leslie looked at Sui with a gaze of deep meaning before continuing to ask, if you can produce 150 each day, wouldn't you be producing 4,500 in a month? Do you think that all these magic fans can be sold? There are only 3,000 households in Banta City. I don't think that each household will buy several magic fans. Many thanks for the Lord Viscount's concern. Sui said with a smile, Actually it's like you said, the magic fan sales in Banta City are already saturated, so it's very hard to sell more magic fans. Then you're still producing this many magic fans? You're not worried that you won't be able to sell them? No one in Banta City is buying them, but there are large amounts of people outside Banta City who need them. Sui replied with a smile. Lord Viscount, to be honest, we already have over 5,000 orders. Only a small portion of them come from Banta City, and most of them come from the villages outside the city. Moreover, each day the orders will greatly increase. For example, this morning, I just received an order for 1,000 magic fans. After saying this, Sui paused a bit. He looked at Viscount Leslie's expression before saying in a more serious tone, It is worth mentioning that this order came from Karma City. Chapter 23. Karma City? Viscount Leslie and Butler Brunei, who had been standing on the side the entire time, looked at each other before saying in a surprised voice, I never thought that you would have already sold the magic fans to other cities. This really is unexpected. Sui laughed and shook his head. Strictly speaking, we didn't sell them, rather they came to us. What do you mean? Viscount Leslie asked in a curious voice. Lord Viscount, you just said that there is a limit to the number of residents in Banta City. Even adding in the villages outside Banta City, there is a limit to the demand for magic fans, so we already had plans to spread the magic fans outside Banta City. But we didn't want to sell it this early because the time wasn't right. Why isn't it suitable? Viscount Leslie was a bit confused. If someone is willing to buy it, could it be that you're not willing to sell it? No, it's not like this. This is just my long-term consideration. Sue put down the juice and decided to properly explain this to Viscount Leslie. Through today's short contact, his impression of Viscount Leslie had greatly changed. He felt that he wasn't as useless as those normal noble children, rather he had his own ideas and knowledge. Then for this kind of person, Sue was willing to have a deeper discussion with him. Although on the surface we need to sell the magic fans to a wider market, which is very beneficial to our development, we can't rush this matter right now. But this can't be rushed because we have to increase our production at the same time as the sales increase. Otherwise, if our output can't keep up and we can't complete the orders we receive, not only will we lose our sales volume and market share, the most serious thing is that it will be a large hit to our reputation. If we lose our reputation, our foundation will be damaged and it will have a fatal impact on our future development. Viscount Leslie thought about it before asking with knit brows, "Then why can't you increase your output? Is it because you don't have enough people? But I've heard Brunei say that your workshop only has 30 students from Baron Ricto Magic Academy working, so it can't be considered full production at all. You just said that you can produce 150 magic fans a day, then I feel that if you're willing to recruit some more people, even if it's not that much, you can at least produce 200 a day, right?" "Lord Viscount, you have forgotten a very important question." Sue shook his head gently. "What is it?" "That's quality. Although the production process of the magic fan was very simple, up until now there were very few people who had the ability to make it. Or to be more accurate, there was only me who could make the magic fan. Although the students I hired can take on the most important task of drawing the magic array, I'm the only one who can do the actual installation and debugging. This created a fact that made me very helpless, which was that the output of the magic fan depended on my work efficiency. However, my energy is limited after all. Now that the production has reached its limit, there is no way to increase it." Viscount Leslie stared at Sue for a while. "This isn't right. Since you can give the most important work of drawing the magic array to those students, it's impossible that you can't give the other work to others. I think you're afraid of revealing the core secrets, so you're not willing to do this at all, right? Lord Viscount, you're looking down on me too much." Sue revealed a faint smile. "I already said it earlier, the production process of the magic fan isn't complicated, so it isn't considered a secret for me at all. Only the work I'm in charge of right now involves a lot of troublesome knowledge, so it's hard to teach it to others in a short period of time. But I believe that this situation won't last for long. Those students have already gradually grasped some of the main points, and I believe that after a while, they will be able to take over my work. When that time comes, you will find that the production of the magic fan will greatly increase." After saying this, Sue paused before revealing a mysterious smile. "Other than that, I don't mind revealing a real secret to you. It is that if nothing unexpected happens, the new generation of magic fans will appear." Viscount Leslie was stunned. "New generation? There's a different kind of magic fan? How is it different from the magic fans you've sold before?" "As for what's different, I'm afraid it's not something that can be explained in a few words. When the new generation of magic fans appear, you'll naturally know." Sue deliberately kept him in suspense. "Moreover, I can tell you that the new generation of magic fans will use a completely different process and production process, so its production will far surpass the current magic fans. When that time comes, it will be time for us to push the magic fans onto a wider market." Viscount Leslie looked at Sue for a while before slowly shaking his head with a smile and saying, "When I saw the plan that Butler Brunei gave me at first, I thought that you were just a crazy person talking big. But now it seems like I've really underestimated you. Very good, since you didn't disappoint me, then we can discuss this in depth. Brunei, take out the contract." Butler Brunei gave a bow before turning to leave. "Contract?" Sue looked at the confident Viscount Leslie and slightly knit his brows. Could it be that this fellow wanted to cause trouble? After a while, Butler Brunei came back with a document in his hand. Viscount Leslie took the document and placed it in front of Sue. "Take a look, you can ask any questions you have." Sue looked over the document in a confused manner and found that it was a contract for renting land. It was for the piece of land he was currently renting. But compared to the first contract that both sides signed, this contract was much more detailed and much more favorable. In the previous contract, Sue and Hines only had the right to rent land for a year from Viscount Leslie, and they didn't have any other right. They would be restricted by Viscount Leslie, and if Viscount Leslie was unhappy one day, there wouldn't be a problem if he chased them away. But in this contract, it clearly stated that Sue's side had the right to use the land and Viscount Leslie only had the right to use it. This also meant that it wasn't a problem for Sue to do whatever he wanted on that piece of land. He didn't even need Viscount Leslie's approval. At the same time, Viscount Leslie had extended the contract from 1 year to 5 years and even lowered the rent. It was actually half a hectare per year, which was 50 gold coins. Sue carefully looked over the contract, and after confirming that he didn't miss anything, he put down the contract. After thinking about it, he asked, "Lord Viscount, do you have any conditions?" A trace of praise flashed in Viscount Leslie's eyes as he said with a faint smile, "If I didn't raise any conditions, would you believe me?" Sue smiled without saying a thing. "Ha ha, all right, I won't joke around. Of course there are conditions, but I feel that you won't reject me. I asked the Lord Viscount to tell me. This condition is very simple, which is that I want to become a shareholder. Pay attention, it isn't as simple as giving me 10% of the shares like before, rather I want to truly participate. In the future, whether you make the magic fan or anything else, I have the right to know and give my opinion. Of course, I won't force my way in for no reason. Other than providing the land, I can also inject funds into your new flyer. Other than that, I can also use my connections to open the market for you. For example, I can bring this magic fan to the capital city, Anvilmar City, to sell. How about it? What do you think of this condition?" Sue's expression didn't change. After being silent for a bit, he asked with a serious look, "Lord Viscount, I want to ask, when you raise this condition, are you using your identity as a noble or as a normal merchant? Is there a difference?" Hearing Sue's strange question, Viscount Leslie was very interested. "There is a large difference." Sue nodded. "If you raise this idea as a noble, then according to the rules of the kingdom's royal parliament, you must place your shares under the supervision of the royal parliament and can't hide anything. Like this, our company will have to disclose many things to the royal parliament. This is something that I can't agree to, so I can only apologize to you." "Then what if it's as a normal merchant?" "If it's as a normal merchant." Sue revealed a sly smile. "Then in terms of business, the condition you raised is very attractive. But I must clearly tell you that there is no problem in obtaining a portion of the shares of the new flyer, but you can only have a small portion. This also means that you only have the right to propose and not the right to make decisions in the company. What do you think about this?" Butler Brunei on the side knit his brows and angrily said, "Audacious! The Lord Viscount is willing to invest in your small company, that is your honor. You actually dare say that the Lord Viscount doesn't have the right to make decisions? You are simply bold." Sue's expression didn't change. He completely ignored Butler Brunei and maintained his faint smile as he looked at Viscount Leslie. Viscount Leslie didn't reveal a surprised expression at all. Rather he nodded and asked, "I understand your thoughts. But Sue, how can you guarantee that you won't make the wrong decision? To put it simply, how can you guarantee my benefits?" Sue revealed a smile and actually winked at Viscount Leslie as he said, "Lord Viscount, you actually believe in me, right?" Viscount Leslie was stunned before breaking out in laughter. "Good. Good. Sue, you really are an interesting person. Brunei, that's enough. Give him the other contract. Sue-yi took the contract from Brunei and found that it really was a contract to invest in a company. The contract stated that Viscount Leslie would use his territory as a share in the new flyer, increasing his 10% share to 30%. At the same time, the contract clearly stated that Viscount Leslie didn't have any right to make decisions for the company. Everything in the company would be decided by Sue-yi and Viscount Leslie couldn't interfere. The other thing that needed to be mentioned was that this was a private contract, which meant that it wasn't protected by the kingdom's laws. But it was because of this that Sue-yi relaxed. After carefully reading the contract, Sue-yi looked up at the smiling Viscount Leslie and reached out his right hand. Lord Viscount, let's work together. Viscount Leslie also reached out his hand with a smile and tightly shook Sue-yi's hand. It's a happy cooperation. Chapter 24. When he left Viscount Leslie's manor, it was just past noon. Sue-yi looked up at the burning sun and decided that it was better if he didn't go back to the factory. He had butler Brunei send a horse carriage driver to send him back to Banta City. With the hot weather, Banta City was as silent as usual. Sue-yi looked around in the horse carriage and found that there were many houses and shops with magic fans turning, so he couldn't help revealing a smile. In less than a month, the magic fan had become popular in and out of Banta City. Other than those rich families who could lay down large-scale frost arrays, if any family had 1 or 2 magic fans, they wouldn't be able to raise their heads in front of their neighbors. According to Heinz's statistics, up until now, the new flyer had sold a total of 2,371 Xinfei brand magic fans. Taking away all the costs, the net profit was 2,200 gold coins. Taking away the dividends Heinz received and the dividends Viscount Leslie received from his 10% share, Sue-yi's income was a high 1,500 gold coins. And this was just his net income in a single month. It had to be known, the average income of a person in Banta City was only 10 gold coins a month, so their income was less than 200 gold coins. With Rem's income of 30 gold coins a month at the Carmilla Magic Tower, he could be considered a high-income family in Banta City. But compared to the current Sue-yi, it was without a doubt several times worse. It was no wonder Heinz kept urging Sue-yi to quit his job at the Magic Tower and focus on running the company. The reason why the production of magic fans couldn't increase was because Sue-yi's energy was limited. Although his work at the Magic Tower wasn't considered heavy, it still used up a large part of his energy. From Heinz's point of view, this was simply a huge waste. But Sue-yi firmly rejected Heinz's suggestions every time. Heinz didn't have that kind of foresight, but Sue-yi couldn't not have it. After getting off the carriage, Sue-yi threw a gold coin to the coachman and walked into the Magic Tower with bags of various sizes. Along the way, he ran into many colleagues in the Magic Tower. When they saw Sue-yi, they all smiled at him. During this time, Sue-yi's magic fan was selling like hotcakes in Banta City. Even if the magicians of the Magic Tower didn't care about mundane matters, they had still heard about it. They also indirectly recognized this black-haired kid that they weren't familiar with before. However, in the eyes of the magicians in the Mage Tower, Sue-yi was more or less neglecting his duties. As a magician, instead of properly studying magic, he ran off to make this so-called magic fan. This was simply throwing away the face of magicians. Sue-yi turned a blind eye to the strange gazes mixed with smiles. He maintained his smile and went straight back to the research room. As soon as they saw Sue-yi enter, several young people in the research room immediately cheered and rushed over. They unceremoniously snatched a few packages from Sue-yi's hands and deftly opened them. "It's green bean juice again? I say, Sue-yi, don't you have any new tricks?" A colleague didn't forget to complain. Sue-yi laughed. "What? Tired of eating it? All right, I'll remember to change it for something new next time." Don't listen to his nonsense. It's already good that there's something to eat. Another female colleague pushed away the complaining colleague. Sui, you bring this kind of thing back each time, it really makes us embarrassed. It's nothing, it's just some small things that aren't worth much. I'm always on leave, so the work in the research room has been shared by you all. This can be considered an apology from me. You're too polite, humph. You also know. A cold snort suddenly broke the harmonious atmosphere on this side. Sui, don't think that you can show off here just because you've earned some money from the magic fan. Don't forget, you are a magician in the end. We magicians still have to rely on our own magic power. Next month is the Sorcerers Guild's certification exam, and I've heard that you still haven't passed the lowest level exam? If you still can't pass next month, that would be a joke. Sui looked over and found that the one who said this was really Cimarron, who was ranked second in terms of magic power in the research room. Since Sui entered the research room, this Cimarron had been raising his eyebrows at him, disliking him in every way. Sui didn't know what was going on at first, but after asking around from his colleagues, he found out that this Cimarron had always had ideas about steel. After knowing that Sui had entered the magic tower through Steel's back door, he thought that Sui and Steel had a special relationship, so naturally he didn't like Sui. For this kind of person, Sui knew that the more you paid attention to them, the more they would come. So he ignored them and treated them like they didn't exist. After a long time, Cimarron felt that there was no meaning in jumping around by himself. Adding in the fact that Sui didn't have any special relationship with Steel, he gradually stopped. He never thought that he would suddenly jump out today. Hey Cimarron, aren't your words too hard to hear? The female colleague who had spoken up for Sui said in a dissatisfied voice. Although Sui hasn't passed the certification exam yet, we've all been colleagues for so long, so how could we not know what kind of strength Sui has? If it was up to me, he would definitely pass the exam next month. Humph. Latte, Sui only brings you a few small things each time and you're already bought over? You're saying that he will definitely pass the exam? So what? I think that he is at most a primary grade magician, right? Could it be that you think a primary grade magician is very powerful? Sui stretched out his hand to stop Latte, who still wanted to argue. He glanced at Cimarron and said with a smile, Senior Cimarron, my magic strength is far inferior to yours. I don't think we need to talk about this anymore. Cimarron didn't think that Sui would actually admit that he was inferior to him in front of so many people. He stared blankly for a moment and was too embarrassed to continue arguing. He could only snort and sit back down. It was unknown if he had started to concentrate on his work. What kind of person is this? Latte disdainfully glanced at Cimarron and lightly snorted. Then she frowned and whispered to Sui, Sui, why did you say that you are inferior to him? Isn't this encouraging his arrogance? The problem is that I am indeed inferior to him. Sui smiled and didn't look angry at all. Latte, I'm an engineer. The most basic requirement is to be realistic and not have any falsehood. Latte unhappily glared at Sui, you are quite calm. Sui faintly smiled and looked left and right, but didn't see Rem and Wella's figures. The two of them asked for leave together today. I think they most likely went on a date. Latte giggled. Speaking of which, that guy Rem isn't so stubborn. At least he knows to invite Wella on a date. So it's like this. What a pity. I still have something to talk to Wella about today. Sui helplessly said. You have something to talk to Wella about? Latte looked at Sui with a doubtful look before suddenly coming over in a mysterious manner and saying in a low voice, Hey, Sui, don't blame me for not reminding you. It's best if you don't find Wella alone in the future. Although Rem didn't say it, I can see that he is very unhappy because of this. Sui stared blankly. I'm only looking for Wella because of work. That won't do. Latte resolutely said. Men can also be jealous, so you need to be careful. Sui didn't know whether to laugh or cry. After thinking about it, He could only shake his head with a bitter smile. All right, I'll be careful in the future. Since Wella wasn't here, Sue lost his goal in coming to the laboratory. He returned to his seat and quickly finished all the work he had accumulated, but it was already close to getting off work. Sue hesitated a bit before leaving the laboratory and stepping onto the magic stairs. The top floor of the magic tower was still cool. After Sue reported his name, the door to Great Magician Camilla's laboratory automatically opened and revealed the space inside. Sue, you actually didn't ask for leave today? Great Magician Camilla seemed like he had just finished some magic research and was taking a short break. When he saw Sue come in, he even made a small joke out of interest. Sue revealed an awkward smile. He knew that he had taken too much time off, and even Great Magician Camilla knew about it. Speak, what are you looking for me for? Great Magician Camilla asked. There are two things. The first thing is to express my gratitude to you, Great Magician. Thank me for what? Great Magician Camilla said with a frown. Thank you for giving me the recommendation for the Sorcerer's Guild certification exam. Giving it to you. A trace of doubt appeared on Great Magician Camilla's face, but then he thought of something and nodded. It's nothing, your magic talent isn't bad, so it's quite appropriate to recommend you. Anyway, this recommendation won't have much use, at most it'll make it a bit more convenient for you, so there's no need to specially thank me. Let's talk about the other thing. No matter what, I still have to thank you. Sue gave a serious bow to Great Magician Camilla to express his gratitude before taking out a blueprint from his chest. The other thing is that I have some questions for you. Another magic array. Great Magician Camilla took the blueprint and looked it over before saying with a soft sigh, This seems to be a frost array? You really are, Your Excellency Great Magician, you can recognize it with a single glance. Sue immediately flattered him. That's right, this is indeed a frost array. Accurately speaking, it's a modified version of the frost array. I can see that, but why are you changing this frost array? Great Magician Camilla pointed at the blueprint. Great Magician Camilla pointed at the blueprint. Why do I feel that the modification you made to this frost array is a bit similar to the revolving wind array you modified before? Sue was filled with admiration as he happily said, Your Excellency Great Magician, you really are too powerful. You can see the core of this magic array with a single glance. That's right, my goal in modifying this frost array is the same as the revolving wind array from before, which is to let this frost array have a long-lasting output. What do you think of the effects of this array? The changes aren't bad, but there are a few small problems. Great Magician Camilla suddenly looked up. Sue, you wouldn't be planning on using this frost array to make something, right? Just like that magic fan? Sue nodded with a faint smile. That's right, what I want to make is the magic air conditioner. Chapter 25. In the blink of an eye, it was August and it was midsummer. The weather became hotter, and when the sun came out, the magic fan workshop was like a steamer. Not long after, the 30 students working hard were covered in sweat. Even if there was a magic fan in every corner of the workshop that kept blowing, it still couldn't cool people down. Sir Vice President, can you apply to Sir President to set up a large-scale frost array here? Auron wiped the dense beads of sweat on his forehead, and couldn't help but complain to Hines, who was beside him. He came from a noble family and had a good family background since he was young, so he had never suffered this kind of hardship before. Auron, you really are a child of a noble family. Do you know how much it costs to arrange more than one large-scale frost array? Without waiting for Hines to reply, a student on the side retorted with a cold snort. We only get a few gold coins a month, and even if all 30 of us work together, we can only barely cover the monthly consumption of a large-scale frost array. Do you think Sir Chairman will arrange one for us? I also know this, but we have to work hard to obtain it. Oren didn't mind the taunting tone of this student. Since he received a special reward from Sue for improving the magic array last time, Oren had been in a very good mood and his mind had become much wider. Cool. Everyone, don't worry. I will report this matter to the chairman later, and try my best to convince him to arrange a large-scale frost array. I believe that when the chairman sees how hard everyone is working, he will definitely think of a way to solve this. Seeing everyone covered in sweat, Heinz quickly comforted them. Because of the hot sales of the magic fans, the magic fan factory earned over 100 gold coins a day. Calculating it like this, it wasn't impossible to arrange a large-scale frost array in the workshop. After all, these students were the core of the magic fan production, and now that the weather was too hot, it had already seriously affected their work efficiency. As the manager of the factory, Heinz had to consider this problem. Faced with Heinz's reply, the students didn't reveal any excited expressions. Even Oren just laughed and shook his head, looking like he didn't believe this at all. That student was right, the cost of arranging a large-scale frost array was too high. From the perspective of a merchant, they definitely wouldn't easily arrange something like this for their workers. At the very least, they had never heard of any chamber of commerce decorating their workshop with such extravagant decorations. Of course, that was just what they thought. However, when they saw Sue appear in the factory, a glimmer of hope was ignited in the students' hearts. However, Sue's answer immediately dashed their hope. Setting up a large-scale frost array? That won't do. It's too wasteful. There's no need for that. Sue shook his head and answered with certainty. The students looked at each other, sighed in unison, and continued with their work. Sir Chairman, I had always thought that you were different from the other merchants. But now, it seems that there isn't much difference. Oren was greatly disappointed and couldn't help but complain. Sue laughed and waved his hand, saying, "Don't be so anxious and disappointed. Although I said that it would be a waste to set up a large-scale frost array, I didn't say that I wouldn't help you solve this problem." The students curiously looked at Sue again. They thought that the weather was this hot, and if he didn't set up a large-scale frost array, how could he solve this problem? Sue pointed at the rectangular iron box that he had just brought and signaled to Heinz to work with him. They set up this iron box on the wall of the workshop and then took out a magic crystal to put into the groove under the iron box. Seeing Sue's actions, the eyes of the students all lit up. Could it be that this was a new magic machine that Sue had developed? "Sir Chairman, what is this thing?" Oren couldn't help asking. "Don't be anxious, you'll know in a bit." After Sue finished his preparations, he pressed the switch at the bottom of the strange iron box. Ding! After a soft sound, a faint milky white light lit up in the iron box, followed by a faint cyan light. Then, a faint humming sound could be heard from the iron box. There were several strange openings under the iron box, and there was a piece of cloth hanging from the openings. At first everyone didn't understand what use this thing had, but after a while, everyone found that the cloth began to move. It was clear that there was wind blowing from the openings. Seeing this scene, the students were disappointed again. "Sir Chairman, isn't this just changing the appearance of the magic fan? What use is there?" "That's right, we have several magic fans around us, but just the magic fans can't cool us down that much." "That's right, you should set up a large-scale frost array for us, otherwise we'll die from the heat sooner or later." Sue revealed a smile and didn't explain anything. After a while, Heinz and the students suddenly felt something strange. "That's not right, why is the wind so cool?" "That's right, so strange. It's clearly this hot, so why is the wind blowing from this thing cold?" "Really, it's so cool. This is great. It's much more comfortable this time." "Ha ha, so comfortable. This thing is almost comparable to a large-scale frost array." After the students enjoyed the cool wind blowing from the strange iron box, they couldn't help asking Sue about it out of curiosity. "Sir Chairman, just what is this thing?" "That's right, Why is the wind blowing from it so cool? If the magic fans were like this, that would be great. Everyone wouldn't need to set up a large-scale frost array at all. This thing. Sui stretched out his voice. After he whetted the students' appetites, he kept them in suspense. I won't tell you for now. It can't be, right? Sir Chairman, are you playing with us? That's right, why are you deliberately whetting our appetites? At least tell us what this thing is called, right? Hey, it isn't that I'm not willing to tell you, but this thing isn't finished yet. This is just the first prototype I've developed, so I'm giving it to you to use first. 1. It's to help you improve your working environment, and 2. It's to give you a task, which is to observe the operation of this magic machine at all times. If there are any problems or changes with it, you have to record it. I need to collect the actual operating data and then make some targeted improvements. Do you understand? It's like this: we promise to complete this task. Right. Relax, Sir Chairman. Based on how much cooler it has made me, I will definitely treat it like a treasure. No, 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 I'm not letting you treat it like a treasure, rather I'm letting you play with it as much as possible. This is because I need to see how it reacts to various special situations so I can test its various functions. As for the time, I'll set it at 3 days for now. After 3 days, I'll collect all your data. If everything goes smoothly, this thing will enter mass production. When the time comes, I'll be able to install a few more for you and guarantee that you won't feel hot. That's great. Sir Chairman, you really are a good person. No, it's a good boss. Seeing the students jump up and down in joy, Sui revealed a smile. He turned to Heinz and said in a low voice, Heinz, I'll be going on a long trip in the next few days, so I'll have to trouble you with the matters here. Going on a long trip? Where are you going? Heinz asked in a surprised voice. Sui's eyes drifted to the west. I'm going to the dwarf tribe where Master Lanus came from. Master Lanus said that if I go quickly, I'll be there in a day, so I'll be there in 3 days. But if I'm delayed by anything, you'll have to take care of the matters here. Other than that, you'll have to take a trip to Carmilla Magic Tower for me and tell Great Magician Camilla to help me take 2 more days off. Heinz asked in a doubtful voice, Why are you suddenly going to the dwarf tribe? Do you still remember what I said to you last time? I've never been satisfied with the craftsmanship of the blacksmiths in Banta City, and the only one qualified was Master Lanus. But there was only one Master Lanus, and he couldn't satisfy my needs at all. I seriously thought about it and discussed it with Master Lanus, deciding to take a trip to the dwarf tribe he came from. If I can recruit some dwarven blacksmiths from the dwarf tribe, it would be a great help to my future plans. Although the dwarven blacksmiths are a bit stronger than human blacksmiths, you don't need to be this strict, right? Look at the outer shells of these magic fans. They were all made by the human blacksmiths in the city. I don't see any problems with them at all. Heinz, this isn't me being strict, it's just that your standards are too low. Could it be that you haven't noticed that although the outer shells of these magic fans look good, there are actually some small differences? This causes the appearance of each magic fan that we produce to be different, both big and small. Don't look down on these differences. You can't see it now, but when I want to make this factory into an assembly line in the future, these small differences will be fatal. Assembly line? Even if Heinz wasn't surprised by the new words that came out of Sui's mouth, he was still stunned. What is this? I'll explain it to you when the conditions are right. You just need to be a bit more anxious, which is that all the production must be strictly regulated and standardized. There can't be any ambiguity at all. Seeing how serious Sui was, Heinz could only nod in agreement. All right, I'll set off now. I hope that when I come back, I can bring back a group of dwarven blacksmiths. Chapter 26. If it was calculated in a straight line, the dwarven tribe that Master Lanus came from was less than 200 kilometers away from Banta City. But if the entire journey was included, It was close to 300 kilometers. It was a good thing that the first 200 kilometers could be quickly covered by horse carriages, but when they reached the mountain where the dwarven tribe was, there was a distance of over 20 kilometers that they had to walk. It was like Master Lanus said, this trip took an entire day. Sui set off from Banta City in the morning, and only when the sky was completely dark did he see the sparks in front of him under the guidance of Master Lanus. Do you see it? Those sparks are furnace fires. The furnace fires in our dwarven tribe will never be extinguished. After saying this, Master Lanus stuck out his stomach that wasn't small and had a proud look on his face. It was a pity that Sui didn't have the strength to speak at all from the day's journey, so he didn't tactfully agree with him. Towards Sui's sudden visit, the dwarves in the tribe were a bit surprised. But because Sui came with Master Lanus, they were warmly welcomed in by the dwarves and immediately held a large welcoming banquet. The dwarves loved wine, so naturally they mainly entertained guests with wine. Sui didn't remember how many bowls of wine he had been forced to drink, and he didn't remember how he had fallen asleep. But when he woke up and opened his eyes, he found that the sky was already bright and it was already the morning of the next day. Sui shook his head and found that strangely it didn't hurt, but he did feel a bit dizzy. It seemed like not only did the dwarves love wine, they were also very skilled at making wine. After drinking that much last night, he actually didn't get drunk the next day. Of course, this was also because Sui's alcohol tolerance wasn't bad. On Earth, as one of the top mechanical engineers in the country's largest mechanical engineering company, even if Sui strictly controlled himself, he couldn't avoid all kinds of dinners. His alcohol tolerance was trained like this. This world's alcohol distilling technology couldn't compare to Earth's technology, so naturally the alcohol content couldn't compare. This indirectly increased Sui's alcohol tolerance by a large amount. "Hey Sui, right? You're awake?" A rough voice sounded from the side. Sui turned his head and saw a male dwarf with a large nose. "You are." Sui scratched his head. He had an impression of this male dwarf, but he couldn't remember his name. "Haha, just call me Kanbai." The dwarf vigorously slapped Sui on the shoulder, laughing loudly. "I thought that humans couldn't hold their liquor well. I didn't expect you to be so good at drinking. Yesterday you actually knocked out 2 people before collapsing. Not bad, not bad." Sui chuckled, thinking that the dwarves loved wine, so they regarded those who could drink as heroes. His alcohol tolerance last night had become a good stepping stone. "Where is Master Lanus? Why don't I see him?" Sui asked. "That kid Lanus went to see the Patriarch, saying that he had something to discuss." "Oh right, I almost forgot. He said that you can go and see the Patriarch after you wake up. What do you think? Do you want to go now? But you've just woken up, you should eat something to fill your stomach before going." Sui rubbed his stomach. Indeed, it felt empty, and he nodded. Kanbai quickly brought over 2 pancakes made of unknown ingredient. Sui hurriedly finished them, and asked Kanbai to lead the way to see the Patriarch. The dwarven tribe that Lanus came from wasn't particularly large. According to Kanbai, the entire tribe's dwarves added up to only 500 people. Sui made an estimation based on the situation he saw. The adult male dwarves in this dwarven tribe added up to only 100 people. This made him somewhat disappointed. He had intended to recruit as many dwarven craftsmen as possible this time, but the adult male dwarves in this tribe added up to only 100 people. Even if every one of them had the same standard as Master Lanus, it still wasn't enough. "Who told you that only adult male dwarves among us dwarves can forge?" The dwarven patriarch Saluka snorted disdainfully at Sui's question. "Let me tell you. Ever since we dwarves were born, we have been accompanied by fine wine and furnaces. Even the children of our tribe are much more skillful than your human craftsmen." Looking at Saluka's complacent expression, as well as Master Lanus and Kanbai's incomparably approving gazes, Sui tactfully didn't refute. After pondering for a moment, he asked, "Then, revered Patriarch, may I ask if you could allow me to hire some skillful craftsman to assist Master Lanus in completing the task I entrusted to him? With regards to your request, Lanus has already informed me." Seleucus nodded. "Logically speaking, I have no reason to stop you. However, human, have you ever considered a problem? If you take away a large number of our tribesmen from here, then the lives of our remaining tribesmen will inevitably be greatly affected. Moreover, how can you guarantee that our tribesmen who work in your human cities will have a good enough life, and smoothly obtain the remuneration they deserve?" Sui looked at Master Lanus, and Lanus gave a slight nod. Master Lanus had already told Sui this problem on the way here, and this was a problem that many dwarven tribes faced. Although the various races of the Signs were considered peaceful, they were still different races, so there would be various problems if they lived together. For example, even if Master Lanus was a recognized blacksmith master in Banta City, because of his identity as a dwarf, there were many inconveniences to his life in Banta City. Although these doubts were raised by Seleucus, they were the doubts in the hearts of most dwarves. It was because of these doubts that the dwarves gathered into their own small tribes and didn't choose to live together with the humans. Sui already had a plan for this, so he calmly said, "I ask the Patriarch to be assured. Since I want to invite my dwarven friends to work, naturally I will solve these problems for them. As for living conditions, I have already discussed this with Master Lanus, and I believe that Master Lanus has already passed it on to you. You said that you want to set aside an area near the factory for the clansmen to live in, as well as building houses for them and solving their living conditions. This is very good. But what about the other aspects? Are you certain that my clansmen won't be pushed aside and bullied by you humans?" Sui revealed a faint smile. "Lord Patriarch, let's talk about a fact that I'm not willing to admit. It is that we humans are a very practical race. As long as the other side can bring us benefits, we will be friendly with them and won't care what race they are. I think that you should agree to this, right?" Seleucus gave a cold snort. "Of course I know. Since it's like this, what do you have to worry about? Look, Master Lanus is a very good example. Although he is a dwarf, because of his outstanding forging skills, he can bring convenience and benefits to many people in Banta City, so he has received the respect of many people in Banta City. Perhaps there are some inconveniences in his life, but these inconveniences don't really affect his life, right?" Master Lanus gave a laugh and said with a nod, "It is indeed like this. Those fellows in Banta City don't dare offend me. There are many things that the human craftsmen in Banta City can't do, so they can only find me to do it. How could they find trouble with me?" Seleucus was silent for a bit before continuing, "All right, let's not talk about this problem for now. You've taken away a large group of strong clansmen. What about the remaining clansmen? You have to know, even if we dwarves love wine and forging, we also need to live. Whether it is hunting or harvesting, we need these clansmen to work hard. If you take them away, it will greatly affect our tribe. Lord Patriarch, I have a suggestion. Why don't you listen to it? Speak." "I'm planning to build a research lab here. I hope that the dwarven friends of your tribe can help me research some things. Of course, I will provide a fixed amount of research funds each month. As for the amount, let's set it at 500 gold coins for now. If the lab has concrete results, I will give corresponding rewards based on the result. Lord Patriarch, what do you think of this suggestion?" As soon as his voice fell, the 3 dwarves present were stunned. 500 gold coins? Master Lanus' eyes opened wide. "Sui, why didn't you tell me before that you wanted to build a research lab here?" "Research lab? Human, we dwarves are best at forging. What do you want us to help you research?" As the chief, Seleucus cared about something else. "Please be assured, the research I need is related to forging. It's mainly related to forging materials. I've brought a research plan today. How about Lord Patriarch take a look?" Su-yi took out a document from his chest and handed it over. Saluka looked over the document and was a bit surprised. Alloy steel? What is this? The specific information is written on it. Lord Patriarch can slowly study it in the future. Su-yi replied with a smile. Now, may I ask Lord Patriarch, do you have any other questions? If there's anything you're not satisfied with, please speak. As long as I can do it, I will definitely satisfy your request. Saluka, Master Lanus and Kanbai exchanged glances and lightly sighed. All right, human, I admit that I've been moved by your words. I basically agree to your conditions, and agree to your recruitment of manpower in the tribe. However, we still need to discuss the specific details. Su-yi revealed a happy smile, of course. Chapter 27. Su-yi, in fact, even if you didn't compensate us with 500 gold coins, the chief would still have to agree to your conditions. On the carriage back, Master Lanus suddenly sighed and said to Su-yi, Oh? What do you mean? Su-yi asked. Don't you see? The living conditions in the tribe are already quite difficult. Master Lanus smiled bitterly and shook his head. Actually, I have already suggested to the chief a long time ago that we should let the tribe go to the human world to explore. With the forging skills of us dwarves, it is very likely that we would be able to greatly improve the lives of our tribe. This suggestion is very good. Why didn't Chief Saluka agree? Su-yi asked curiously. Master Lanus glanced at Su-yi and hesitated for a moment before replying. Because we dwarves have been deceived by you humans too many times in the past. The chief simply doesn't trust you humans. This time it was Su-yi's turn to smile bitterly. Then why did the chief agree this time? Isn't he afraid that I am also deceiving him? Because there is no other way. Master Lanus said helplessly. Now the signs are completely ruled by you humans. Almost all the resource-rich places have been occupied by you humans. No matter if it is us dwarves, elves, or even those sturdy beastmen, we can only stay far away from you humans and find a place that has not been occupied by you humans. However, these places are not rich in resources, and we are not as creative as you humans. As a result, the living conditions of our tribe are getting worse and worse, and our numbers are getting fewer and fewer. Su-yi, do you know? When I was young, our tribe could have more than 1,000 dwarves, but now there are only 500 people left. When you were young, Su-yi looked at Lanus and thought that dwarves have a much longer lifespan than humans. The young that Master Lanus spoke of was probably a few hundred years ago. Master Lanus didn't care what Su-yi was thinking and continued. Just last year, 3 elders passed away in the tribe, but they didn't even give birth to a baby. Because of this, the entire tribe has lost another 3 people. The chief knows that if this continues, perhaps our tribe will gradually disappear. But there's no other way. We dwarves can't fight the humans on the signs at all. We can't fight the humans for the resources of the continent like we did thousands of years ago. But it is easier said than done to integrate into the human race. Perhaps you don't know how much suffering I suffered in order to survive in Banta City, even almost losing my life. Su-yi silently looked at Master Lanus before he gave a slight nod. Although he didn't know what happened, he didn't know what kind of hard work it took for a race like Master Lanus to integrate into the human city. This time, Lord Patriarch actually wasn't prepared to agree to you directly taking away so many able-bodied laborers from the clan, but there was no other way. The conditions you proposed were simply too generous. Disregarding everything else, just taking out 500 gold coins at once can help solve many of the clan's problems that need to be solved. Not to mention that you've agreed to pay 8 gold coins a month to the clansmen. With this salary, the clansmen's families won't need to worry about their future. Tell me, with this kind of condition, how could the chief reject it? Su-yi was silent for a bit before he couldn't help asking, has the lives of the dwarves really reached such a difficult stage? Why does the chief believe me? Could it be that he isn't afraid that I'm lying to him? You still don't understand? Even if you are deceiving him, the 500 gold coins you took out are genuine. Master Lon Nu rolled his eyes. Master Lanus rolled his eyes as he said, "Then again, you are someone I brought here. Although I haven't been in contact with you for a long time, I've lived among humans for a long time. I can see that you're not a fake liar. At the very least, you're serious about carrying out your words. Just based on this, I feel that you're worth trusting this time." Sui embarrassedly scratched his head and chuckled, "So I'm such a trustworthy person." Master Lanus glanced at Sui unhappily. "Don't be happy too early, kid. As for the specifics, it'll depend on how you treat my clansmen when the time comes. Let me tell you, if you lie to them when the time comes, I'll give you a good lesson even if I have to risk my life." Sui repeatedly waved his hand. "How could that be? Master Lanus, you and your clansmen are all my treasures. I can't wait to take care of you, so why would I lie to you? Let me tell you the truth, Master Lanus. The work that you and your clansmen are about to do will become the most important work that will change the entire signs. In the future, you dwarves will very likely write a thick stroke in the entire history of the signs. When the time comes, you'll be experts that the entire continent needs to look up to. Do you still need to worry about the most basic of living problems?" Master Lanus glared. "Kid, don't say such nice things. What changing the continent and writing it into history, I don't care about that. What I care about the most right now is, where are the houses you promised to build for my clansmen?" Sui laughed, thinking that it really wasn't realistic for Master Lanus to believe this right now. But he was certain that as long as everything went smoothly, Master Lanus and his clansmen would become the most important driving force in changing the history of the signs. ####. When they returned to Banta City after 3 days, it was already nighttime. After entering the city, Master Lanus said a few things to Sui before jumping out of the horse carriage. Sui ordered the horse carriage driver to bring him back to the house he was renting. When he jumped out of the horse carriage, he found that there was a person sitting in front of his door. Based on that figure, it seemed a bit familiar. Coming closer to take a look, Sui couldn't help being stunned. "Steel? It's this late, what are you sitting in front of my house for?" Steel had been hugging her legs with her head between them, but when she heard Sui's voice, she slowly looked up. After seeing her face, Sui was shocked. Under the light, Steel's face was very pale and her face was much thinner. Her face had lost its youthful beauty from before and her large eyes didn't have any figure at all. It was like she had collapsed. "Hey, Steel, what happened?" Sui squatted down in worry and looked into Steel's eyes as he asked this in a deep voice. Steel opened her mouth, but not a single word came out. After a while, she slowly shook her head. Sui knit his brows and didn't care about anything else. He helped Steel up and opened the door, entering the house. When they came in, Vivian's bedroom lit up and Vivian's timid voice sounded. "Who is it?" "It's me. Go back to sleep, there's no need to get up." Sui replied and helped Steel sit down on the stool. He turned around and poured her a cup of water before sitting down across from her. He paused and asked gently, "Steel, tell me, what happened? Were you bullied by bullied?" Steel suddenly revealed a bitter smile and looked at Sui. She picked up the teacup on the table and took a big gulp. Because she drank too quickly, she choked and coughed violently. Sui frowned deeply. Although he didn't know much about girls, from Steel's current behavior, she must have suffered a heavy blow. Otherwise, a lively and playful young girl like her wouldn't have become like this so easily. Steel, could it be that the gift wasn't given? Sui guessed. The last time he saw Steel was when Steel came to him at night and said that she wanted to thank him. But she was later angered by Sui's, "You're still a child," and ran away. But in their previous conversation, Steel had said that the piano model she asked Sui to help her make was already done. And the birthday of the person she liked was coming soon. She would go to the capital of the Lampari kingdom, Anvilmar City, and personally give the gift to that person. Now that a few days had passed and Steele came back looking like she had lost her soul, it was very likely that the problem was this. Hearing Su Yi's question, Steele put down the teacup and looked at Su Yi in a daze for a while. Then she suddenly asked, "Su Yi, tell me, am I a child?" Su Yi was surprised. Could it be that Steele still cared about what he said last time? But it didn't seem like it. Su Yi seriously thought about it, but he didn't know how to answer. Now that Steele's mental state was clearly unstable, if he answered wrong, it was very likely that it would cause unpredictable consequences. This depends on how you look at it. From my point of view, you... Okay, no need to say any more. You're right, I'm a child. You're a surprisingly stupid little child. Still suddenly raised her voice as she spoke. Why do you say that? Su Yi frowned and asked. If I'm not a naive child who doesn't know anything, how could I like that scum? Steele suddenly cursed fiercely. Chapter 28. Scum. Su Yi paused and his face quickly darkened. Steele, tell me what happened. If someone bullied you, just tell me. I'll find a way to avenge you. You? Steele smiled and shook her head. You can't. His family is very powerful. You can't do anything to him. Is it very powerful? Su Yi raised his eyebrows and smiled. If that's the case, then I'll have to do some research. Come, tell me, who is the guy who bullied you? Most importantly, did you suffer any harm? Seeing Su Yi's gaze on her, Steele's pale face blushed. She rolled her eyes at Su Yi and said, What are you thinking? I'm fine. Don't forget, my grandfather is a great magician. He doesn't have the guts to do anything to me. That's true. Su Yi nodded. According to what you're saying, it's because you realize that he's a scum, so you fell out of love? Bah! I've never been in love with him, okay? How can I fall out of love? Steele rebuked. Su Yi laughed. Failing in one-sided love can also be considered as falling out of love. Seeing that Steele's expression had regained some vitality, Su Yi was relieved. It seemed that Steele had simply found out that the person she liked was a scum, so the beautiful image in her heart was destroyed and her spirit was damaged. This was a very common thing. It was not rare for young girls to encounter this kind of thing. As long as she was not hurt, it was fine. After a while, she would naturally return to normal. Humph. You can still laugh. Steele snorted and glared at Su Yi. Although she was a little angry, Steele found that after chatting with Su Yi for a while, she did not feel as empty as before. It was as if the whole world had collapsed. She seemed to have come back to life. After a pause, Steele said to Su Yi seriously, Su Yi, what I'm going to say next, you can't tell my grandfather, understand? Su Yi knew that Steele needed someone to listen to her talk and relieve her depression. He nodded seriously and stared at Steele, waiting for her to speak. That gift. I didn't give it away. Under the cover of the night, there was only a candle in Su Yi's room. With this light, Steele slowly told Su Yi about her experiences during this time. This was actually a story that Su Yi didn't think was too strange. Steele's secret crush was a male classmate of hers from the Lampuri Royal Academy. This male classmate came from a large noble family in Anvilmar City, so naturally he had a deep background. Adding in his handsome appearance, elegant demeanor, and outstanding talent for magic, he was recognized as the male god of the Lampuri Royal Academy, so there were many female students who secretly admired him. Steele was one of them. Properly speaking, this was a normal story of unrequited love, but Steele was a very stubborn girl. Even after graduating from the Lampuri Royal Academy and returning to Banta City, she had been separated from this male classmate, but she still missed him. This time, taking advantage of this male classmate's birthday banquet, Steele asked Su Yi to help her make a fine model piano. Then she brought this gift filled with her heart to Anvilmar City, preparing to personally give it to this male classmate at the banquet and confess to him. Who would have thought that after Steele went to Anvilmar City, she would immediately hear a piece of bad news. This male god in her heart was actually engaged. Steele was naturally sad, but she still planned to give the gift. She was prepared to hide her feelings and sincerely wish this male god in her heart a happy life. If this matter ended here, it would be a sad story with a good ending. But what happened next was a bit unexpected. Steele found this male god at the banquet and was prepared to give him the gift, say a few words of blessings before leaving. Who would have thought that after seeing Steele, this male god would secretly tell Steele that he had always liked Steele? Steele was pleasantly surprised, but she remembered that this male god was already engaged, so she tactfully reminded him. However, after this male god's flowery words, Steele strangely believed him, and even secretly went on 2 dates with him in the next 2 days. Then how did that fellow become scum? Hearing this, Sui looked at Steele with a strange look. Could it be that he used force on you? Steele's face turned red. He didn't dare use force. But in short, he is scum. He was clearly engaged and had a fiancée, but he kept making that kind of request to me. I rejected him, and he actually said that I didn't like him at all. Humph. Who said that, if you like someone, you have to give your body to them? This scum. Later I accidentally overheard a conversation between a few classmates. It turned out that this fellow had already played with many female classmates when he was at school, but afterwards he didn't admit it to anyone. He was already a complete scum. Clap, clap, clap. Sui suddenly clapped his hands. Steele, congratulations. Steele stared at Sui with her eyes wide open. I'm already so miserable, and you still want to congratulate me? Are you here to comfort me or to mock me? No, 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 I'm sincerely congratulating you. Sui smiled. Steele, you were able to recognize this scum's true colors before causing more damage. Is this still worth congratulating? Also, I admire your persistence and clear-headedness. Since that guy was able to deceive so many female students, he must be very good at dealing with girls. It's really rare for you to be able to maintain your chastity in front of him. Steele's face turned slightly red, and she snorted softly. I wouldn't degrade myself that much. Sui chuckled. Well said. But still, since you already know that he is scum, why are you torturing yourself like this and putting yourself in such a pitiful state? It's not worth it. I just couldn't get over it. Steele mumbled. What about now? Have you gotten over it? Steele looked at Sui, and then looked at the night sky outside the window. After thinking for a while, she took out an exquisite box from her backpack. She opened the box, and inside was naturally the piano model she had made herself. Steele stared at the piano model in a daze for a while, then suddenly took a deep breath and punched it. Boom! This piano model was incomparably delicate, so naturally it was incomparably weak. Adding in the fact that Steele's fist had a low-level fire magic attached to it, the piano model was instantly shattered to pieces. Even the remains were completely burned away, turning into ashes in an instant. Okay, now I have nothing to do with this guy. Steele raised her head, and her beautiful shoulder-length blonde hair fluttered in the wind. In just a moment, she seemed to have returned to the youthful and beautiful girl from before. Sui couldn't help but smile in relief. This Steele was indeed a strong girl. She recovered so easily. But this also meant that she didn't really have any feelings for the so-called Prince Charming. At best, it was just an adolescent girl's natural admiration for beautiful things. This was also good. Most girls would go through this. Steele being able to go through this kind of experience had enriched her life and made her more mature. Sui, I won't be going back tonight. While Sui was praising in his heart, Steele's sudden words almost made him spit out his drink. Huh? You're not going back? You wouldn't be thinking of spending the night at my place, right? Sui's eyes opened wide as he looked at Steele in disbelief. Are you kidding me? I am a single man and a little girl like you spending the night at my place. Aren't you afraid of rumors spreading? If great magician Camilla knew about this, it would be strange if he didn't use magic to send me flying. Che, I'm not worried, so what are you worried about? Steele looked at Sue-yi in disdain. Didn't you always say that I was a child? Then what's wrong with a child like me spending the night at an uncle's house? Then again, you have a little girl like Vivian at home. What kind of single man are you? Relax, I'll go sleep with Vivian in a bit. I won't disturb you, uncle. After saying this, Steele stretched and walked into the bathroom. I haven't bathed in several days, I'm so dirty. Hey, uncle, can you lend me a set of clothes first? I haven't even had time to wash my clothes in the past few days. I don't have anything to change into. Seeing Steele walk into the bathroom without any courtesy, Sue-yi could only helplessly blink. He turned his head and found that Vivian had opened the bedroom door a crack and was peeking in, so he waved his hand at her. Come, Vivian, go greet Steele and tell her how to use our bathroom. That's right. Do you have any of the clothes I bought for you last time that you haven't worn yet? Take one out for her to change into and I'll buy a few more for you in a few days. Vivian obediently nodded and went back into the room to find a set of clothes to bring into the bathroom. After a while, there was the sound of running water and Steele's light singing in the bathroom. Sue-yi couldn't help shaking his head. This fellow, how does she look like someone who just fell out of love? Humph, calling me an uncle? I'm only 27 this year, all right? How do I look like an uncle? Hey, Vivian, do you think I look like an uncle? The pitiful Vivian looked at Sue-yi in a daze, not knowing whether to nod or shake her head. Chapter 29. After a long journey yesterday, and being tossed around late into the night because of Steele's matter, Sue-yi woke up very late the next day. When he opened his eyes, the sunlight filled the room and it seemed like it was close to noon. Master, you're awake? Vivian's timid voice sounded in his ears. It's almost noon, what do you want to eat for lunch? Sue-yi jumped up and looked around, but he didn't see Steele. Big sister Steele has already gone back. She said that if Master wants to go to the magic tower today, you should look for her. She has something to discuss with you. Something to discuss with me? Why didn't that fellow say anything last night? Sue-yi looked out the window and said to Vivian, Don't cook today, let's go out and eat. We'll save some time. Master, I don't need to. Vivian said in a surprised voice. You can go out and eat, I just need to eat something at home. Stop wasting words, this is an order. Sue-yi said without any politeness. After being with Vivian for a while, Sue-yi knew that perhaps because this little girl had been a slave for too long, she was used to putting herself in a very low position. If he wanted to change her mind, it would take a long time. As expected, hearing Sue-yi's strong tone, Vivian obediently agreed. After leaving home with Vivian, Sue-yi first brought her to a clothing store in Banta City to buy 2 sets of clothes for Vivian before finding a restaurant to have lunch. While eating, Sue-yi organized his thoughts in his mind. There were many things in front of him right now, so he had to prioritize these things. The most important thing was of course to guarantee the sales of the magic fan. Otherwise, if he lacked funds, he wouldn't be able to do anything. Although the magic fan sales were hot, Sue-yi was very clear that the market in Banta City and the surrounding areas would be saturated soon. The sales volume would quickly decrease and become flat, so it wouldn't be able to bring in as much profit as it did now. Sue-yi had 2 plans for this. One was to upgrade the magic fan and keep releasing new product. He believed that when the second version of the variable speed magic fan was put into production, it would bring another wave of popularity because people would always chase after new things. The second was to continuously expand the market. Other than Karma City, there were merchants from the other cities near Banta City that made large amounts of orders. According to the information they brought, when the magic fans entered those cities, it immediately created a wild wave. The first batch of magic fans that these merchants brought back to test the waters were all sold out in a short period of time. So when these merchants came the second time, they directly placed orders that were several times larger than the first time. But because the magic fan factory's output couldn't be increased for now, Heinz only accepted 5,000 orders. Heinz was very annoyed because of this. If he knew earlier, he would have been a bit more bold from the beginning. He would have expanded the factory by several times and increased the output by several times, which would have allowed him to take in all the orders. Sui wasn't in a rush. The second version of the variable speed magic fan had already been decided in his mind. As long as everything went smoothly, the second version of the variable speed magic fan would enter the assembly line and the factory's output would increase by several times. At that time, not to mention a trivial 10,000 orders, even if it was 20,000, 30,000, or even more, it would still be easily taken. Of course, to realize the assembly line, there were still many things that needed to be prepared. This was what Sui cared about the most right now. Although Master Lanus had already made the magic capping machine and the magic thread rolling machine, allowing the screw bolts to be mass-produced, it also meant that it was possible to realize the assembly line of the variable speed magic fan, but this was far from enough. If he wanted to take the backward casting process of the first version of the magic fan to the assembly line of the current assembly line, he had to standardize every part of the magic fan. As for the standardized processing, it was very hard to accomplish with just manpower. Even if Master Lanus clansmen all had the same forging skills as Lanus, they still couldn't satisfy this requirement. To achieve this, the most important thing was the forging machines. For example, the outer shell of the magic fan. If they relied on manpower to forge it, a blacksmith shop in Banta City could only make no more than 30 pieces a day. Now, in order to guarantee the production of the magic fan, Sui had taken out all the blacksmiths in Banta City. Although there was always work to do and the people in the blacksmiths were very happy, this had already affected the order of Banta City, so it definitely wasn't a long-term plan. Even like this, the output of the outer shell of the magic fan was barely enough to support the production of the factory. It was impossible to increase it any further. Not to mention that Sui wasn't satisfied with the craftsmanship of these blacksmiths. The standards of the outer shell of the magic fan that they forged were too different. If they were placed in a factory on Earth that had strict standards, most of them would be considered defective products. If he wanted to mass-produce the variable speed magic fan, these outer shells wouldn't be suitable at all. In the end, it's still a serious lack of a heavy industrial foundation. Thinking of this, Sui couldn't help giving a sigh. The establishment of an industrial system naturally couldn't be separated from the development of a heavy industrial system. But for the signs, not to mention a heavy industrial system, even a light industrial system was rare. Their foundation was just too lacking. I hope that those dwarves can change this situation after they come. Sui took out a small book and began to make preliminary plans for this matter. According to his agreement with Chief Saluka, in 3 days, there would be 100 dwarves with exquisite craftsmanship that would come to Banta City and become Sui's subordinates. In order to protect the lives of these dwarves, Sui had to build a living area near the factory. Then he had to build 2 other workshops. One of them would be the main workshop for the dwarves and the other would be the assembly workshop for the variable speed magic fan. Because there was only a month left until the end of summer, time was tight. The 2 workshops would be crude for now, and they would be built according to the standards of the magic fan workshop from before. But the living area of the dwarves couldn't be casually built. He had already made an agreement with Chief Saluka and had patted his chest in front of Master Lanus to guarantee this. Not to mention that these dwarves were the most important craftsmen in Sui's mind. It wasn't exaggerated to say that the foundation of the Sign's industrial system was in the hands of these dwarves. If he didn't treat them a bit better, it wouldn't be right. There are too many things to do, there's far from enough people. Sui knit his brows as he looked at the dense list of things in his little book. Not mentioning anything else, just the workshop and the workers' dormitories need a large amount of people. I wonder if Heinz can solve this matter? While he was thinking about this, Sui suddenly saw Vivian burying her head in her food, and his eyes instantly lit up. Got it! ####. You want to buy a few more slaves from me? Viscount Leslie looked at Sui in a daze. He never thought that this fellow would come in the middle of the day and make this kind of request upon meeting. What do you want to buy them for? Because I need a large amount of people right now. Sui said, since I need a large amount of people right now. I don't have a way to hire that many people right now, so I can't hire that many people right now, so I can only find you to think of a way. Viscount Leslie's face was a bit ugly. Based on your tone, you need quite a few people. Tell me, how many people do you want? Sui stretched out a finger and said with a faint smile, let's start with 100 people. 100? Viscount Leslie slightly narrowed his eyes and reprimanded without any politeness. Do you think this is a pig? You think you can get 100 just because you say you want 100? Let me tell you, there are only 300 slaves under my name. If I give you 100, what would I do? To be honest with you, I still want to buy a few more slaves. Can't you see that there is still a lot of empty land under my name that hasn't been cultivated? If I had enough people, there wouldn't be this much empty land, and I wouldn't be able to rent it to you. Sui was not moved at all as he asked with a smile. That means that Sir Viscount needs those slaves just to have them cultivate. Nonsense, otherwise what would those fellows be used for? They're just some slaves. Viscount Leslie reprimanded before suddenly looking at Vivian, who had been standing behind Sui the entire time. That's right, this little girl seems to be the slave you stole from Brunei without my permission last time, right? What? You've tasted the sweetness from her and now you want to buy some more slaves to use? Viscount Leslie's eyes swept over her and Vivian immediately lowered her head in fear. In her eyes, Viscount Leslie's previous master was high up. He was not someone a small slave like her could look at. Sui knit his brows and said with a serious look, Sir Viscount, first, I didn't steal her by force. I discussed the conditions with Butler Brunei and bought Vivian after both sides reached an agreement. You also signed the document to agree to this. Second, Vivian is now one of my people, so I ask you to pay attention to your words and not use this kind of insulting word. Hearing that Sui was actually going against Viscount Leslie for her, Vivian was shocked. She couldn't help reaching out her little hand to pull on Sui's clothes as her face filled with fear. Viscount Leslie was a bit surprised, but he didn't look angry because he was being contradicted. Rather he looked over Sui and Vivian before revealing a smile. Sui, you really are a strange fellow. For a slave, you actually dare to contradict me. You say that this little girl is one of your people. But I think she's still a virgin, right? She's still a virgin after following you for this long. Could it be that Sui is a good person that I didn't expect? He never thought that Viscount Leslie would say such a thing. Sui and Vivian's faces couldn't help turning red. Sir Viscount, I didn't mean that. Only, forget it, there's no meaning in talking about this. I just want to remind the Sir Viscount that you're looking down on the value of slaves too much. Even if they are slaves, as long as their hands and feet are normal and their minds are normal, they have complete value as human resources. Only you haven't developed them yet. I'll say something you won't like to hear, but those 300 slaves in your hands are far less valuable than giving them to me. Viscount Leslie was instantly filled with anger. All right, then I want to hear. If I give them to you, how will you display their value? Chapter 30. Heinz saw the large group of men and women in ragged clothes behind Sui, walking over to the factory and was shocked. Could it be that this fellow had been targeted by the beggar sect of Banta City? When the crowd came closer, Heinz found that something was wrong. This was because in front of the ragged men and women, other than Sue, there was an old man with bright clothes who had a noble aura around him. Butler Brunei? Why are you here? Heinz asked in a surprised voice. Butler Brunei nodded to Heinz and didn't reply to his question. He turned to Sue and said, Chairman Sue, I've already brought them here. From now on, these 100 slaves will be yours to use, and you can order them to do anything. But the Lord Viscount has said that these 100 slaves are only lent to you and not given to you, nor will he sell them to you. Moreover, he hopes that you can fulfill your promise to him. If you can't, he will take back these 100 slaves at any time. Sue said with a smile, All right, many thanks for Butler Brunei for personally bringing them here. Butler Brunei turned to give a few orders to the men and women behind him. Those people walked behind Sue with a look of obedience. All right, my task is complete. Butler Brunei nodded to Heinz before seriously saying to Sue, although the Lord Viscount didn't tell me why he gave these 100 slaves to you, as the Lord Viscount's butler, I must remind you that these 100 slaves are very important to the Lord Viscount. Now that the Lord Viscount has given them to you, it means that the Lord Viscount trusts you. I hope that you won't disappoint the Lord Viscount. Sue revealed a faint smile. Relax, if the Lord Viscount didn't have confidence in me, how could he agree to my request? Butler Brunei gave a slight nod, and without saying anything else, he turned to leave. After Butler Brunei left in a horse carriage, Heinz couldn't hold back the curiosity in his heart and asked Sue, Hey, Sue, what is going on here? Are these people all slaves? And they were all Viscount Leslie's slaves? Why would he let you use all these slaves? What conditions did you negotiate with him? Sue raised his hand to stop Heinz's questioning. We'll talk about this later. What about the houses I asked you to build last time? First, make arrangements for these slaves to stay. Heinz suspiciously glanced at Sue. He turned around and shouted towards the factory. After a while, Heinz's nephew, Alex, ran out. After listening to Heinz's instructions, Alex immediately called the slaves over to a few large wooden houses in the distance near the river. You called Alex to help? Sue looked at Alex, who was leading a group of slaves, and said with some surprise, I'm also too busy, so I simply called him over to help. Heinz replied somewhat awkwardly. Although this brat isn't that smart, he does work quite seriously. I had him help me manage this place, so it saved me quite a bit of effort. Sue revealed a faint smile. He patted Heinz's shoulder and said, This is my fault, I put everything on you. Actually, there are more and more things to do, so I should have found a helper for you a long time ago. Letting Alex help is also good. At least he's one of us, so you can be assured. I was thinking the same thing. Of course, Chairman, if you have a suitable person, I'll immediately let this brat go back to managing the general store. That's not necessary. Since he's already here, then let him work hard. How about this? We'll use this chance to divide the work. Right now, Heinz, you're mainly in charge of managing the production and all the small and large matters here, so you'll be the manager of this factory. As for the salary, let's set it at 30 gold coins a month for now. How can that be? Heinz was stunned and quickly waved his hand. I have shares, so managing this place is something I should do. How can I get extra money? The shares and the things you do are two different things. If you put in the work, then you have to get the goods. Managing this place requires a lot of time and energy, so 30 gold coins a month is actually very little. But right now we've just started, so we can only set this much for now. When we develop in the future, your salary will definitely increase. Not waiting for Heinz to refute, Sue patted his shoulder. Then it's settled. Then, how can this be? Heinz rubbed his hands with an embarrassed face, but in the end, he didn't say anything against it. Sue smiled and continued, As for Alex, let's set him as the assistant manager. As for the salary, No, 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 that won't do. It's already his fortune that this brat can come and help. How can he dare to take a salary? You don't need to consider him at all, really," Heinz said anxiously. Sui laughed and pointed at Heinz. "You get 30 gold coins a month, but he can't even get a single copper coin. How can he be happy? All right, I'll set this matter. Let's start with 10 gold coins a month. If you do well, you can raise it at any time. What do you think?" Heinz chuckled and didn't object. Seeing his face filled with uncontrollable excitement, Sui found it a bit funny. Heinz was trying to get some benefits for his nephew. This could be considered human nature. Sui didn't have any prejudice against this kind of thing. Just like he said, Alex could be considered one of their own, so he could use him without worry. Moreover, like this, it would make Heinz put in more effort into this factory, which could be considered a good thing. As for his and Alex's salary, it was just a small matter. "That's right, Sui, you still haven't told me about these slaves." After the excitement, Heinz didn't forget to ask about the slaves. "Oh, they are the people I borrowed from Viscount Leslie for the time being. Soon our factory will be increasing production, so we need large amounts of workers. These slaves are obedient and easy to use, so of course they are very suitable candidates. That's right, contact a few more construction teams in Banta City and quickly build a few more houses. The dwarven craftsman I contacted will be here in a few days, so we need to arrange a place for them to live." "All right, I'll remember these things. Is there anything else?" "Anything else?" Sui looked at Heinz and shook his head. "There's nothing else for now. The main problem right now is to take care of the living conditions of these slaves and dwarves. Heinz, you mustn't neglect them because of their status as slaves and dwarves. They are an important factor for the development of our company." "I understand this. I will definitely do my best to take care of this." Heinz gave a serious nod. Sui gave a sigh, thinking that he really didn't have enough people. Heinz was the factory manager in name, but he was also in charge of human resources and logistics, taking care of almost all the small and large matters of the factory. Right now the factory was still small and the scale of production wasn't large, but he already needed Alex's help. When it developed further in the future, he couldn't do it all by himself no matter what. But this kind of management talent was even harder to find than research talent, so he couldn't solve this problem for now. After explaining some things to Heinz, Sui entered the workshop. Because there were classes today, the 30 students he hired were all in class, so the workshop was a bit empty. Sui looked at the empty workshop and couldn't help sighing at the lack of human resources. For these students, their studies at the Baron Ricto Magic Academy were more important. Even if they signed a contract, they wouldn't focus on their work here and would just treat it as a part of their studies. However, for a factory, the stability and continuity of the production staff was very important. Even if Sui could recruit large amounts of students to complete this work, the students were deeply influenced by the traditional thinking of signs. They felt that becoming powerful magicians was more important than working here, but it was very hard for them to stay here for a long time like Sui imagined. There are two solutions. One is to cast a wide net. Magic is flourishing in signs and there are many magicians, but there will always be some magicians who aren't that successful. In order to live, these fellows need a job. The work here is considered specialized, so there will be some people who will come. As for the other solution, Sui fell into deep thought. The other solution was to lower the threshold for drawing magic arrays. Although the revolving wind array needed for the magic fan was a low-grade wind array, and even the students in school could draw it, in Sui's plan, there would be more industrial products in the future and the magic arrays needed for those things wouldn't be limited to low-grade magic arrays. To draw a high-grade magic array, there would be a corresponding requirement for the strength of the magicians. At that stage, it would be very hard to recruit large amounts of magicians to complete this work. What Sui could do was to reduce the magic output requirement for these magic machines as much as possible, reducing the power and level of the magic arrays required, and reducing the requirements for drawing magic arrays as much as possible. But this was a very large project that required a large amount of time and energy to study. Just based on the revolving wind array needed for the magic fan, it was already very hard for Sui to improve it. If he wanted to make any new products in the future, he would face the same problem. Just relying on Sui alone, it was impossible for him to solve everything. Sui tightly knit his brows. He paced around the workshop while thinking about how to solve this problem. When he came to the workbench where the students were drawing magic arrays, there was a sudden cold breeze that shocked him. Looking up, he found that the magic air conditioner on the wall was still running. Why is it still running when there's no one here? Isn't this a waste? Sui muttered. Then he remembered that he had told them to use this magic air conditioner more often to test the data. I don't know if those fellows have found any problems, so I can collect them before looking for Great Magician Camilla. Thinking of this, Sui narrowed his eyes and muttered to himself in a soft voice. It seems like I have to find Great Magician Camilla to have a proper discussion. Chapter 31. Sui left Great Magician Camilla's lab with a dejected look on his face. When he saw the magic air conditioner, Sui remembered that when he was researching the magic air conditioner, he had asked Great Magician Camilla several times and obtained many suggestions on improving the frost array from him. If he extended this and invited Great Magician Camilla to be his research consultant, with His Excellency Great Magician's powerful magic power, there were many problems that could be solved. When Sui found Great Magician Camilla, they had a good discussion at first. Great Magician Camilla even agreed to Sui's request, allowing him to finish some magic array research that he couldn't finish with his current magic power. But when Sui mentioned that he could pay some gold coins, Great Magician Camilla's expression instantly changed. He angrily slapped the table and pointed at the door to tell Sui to scram, not even giving him a chance to explain. This Great Magician Camilla, does he have a grudge against money? Sui couldn't help thinking in a confused voice. Even if he knew that Great Magician Camilla didn't like combining magic research and business, he never thought that he would dislike it to this degree. Hey, uncle, what are you doing with that frown on your face? Does someone owe you money? There was a clear voice that suddenly came from beside him. No one owes me money and I'm only 27 this year, don't keep calling me uncle, alright? Sui snappily glared at Steele. After a night, Steele no longer had the disappointed look from last night and had returned to the appearance of a young girl. Of course, she was still very thin, but this was something that couldn't be completely recovered in a single night. Who told you to keep calling me a child? Steele gave a snort. She looked at the Great Magician's private lab behind Sui and asked in a small voice, What? Did you make grandfather angry? Sui depressingly told Steele about the situation just now, which attracted a burst of ridicule from her. Ha ha, you deserve it. You already knew that my grandfather didn't like this, but you still insisted on mentioning the remuneration in front of him. Aren't you asking for it? Sigh. How could I have known that he would hate me to this extent? Sui sighed and couldn't help but ask, Steele, why is the Great Magician so opposed to this? The other great magicians obviously wouldn't refuse. You want to know? Steele gave a sly smile. It won't do if you don't pay a price. Sui shrugged and looked at the sky outside the magic tower. It's not time for dinner yet. How about I treat you to afternoon tea? After ordering 2 cold drinks from a snack bar near the magic tower, Steele told Sui the whole story. Great Magician Camilla had taught several apprentices before, and he had high hopes for 2 of them. He felt that as long as they were willing to work hard, they would become powerful magicians sooner or later, even surpassing him. But in the end, these few apprentices couldn't resist the temptation of money. At a young age, they were hired by several large chambers of commerce with high salaries and became one of the guards of those chambers of commerce. Since then, they had abandoned their magic research and hadn't made any progress in so many years. Great magician Camilla was very pained by their situation, and at the same time, he hated the actions of those companies. After accumulating this many times, he gradually formed this kind of attitude. Since grandfather saw your magic fan, he felt that your magic talent was very outstanding and he had high hopes for you. In the end, not only did you reject him taking you in as an apprentice, you even started your own company, so of course he was very disappointed. If it wasn't for the fact that Grandpa still had hope in you and that your magic power was indeed improving, he would have kicked you out of the magic tower long ago. How could he still allow you to see him at any time and even help you solve your magic problems? Now you're actually here to discuss business with him. Do you think he wouldn't be angry? So you really shouldn't believe me when I say that you deserve it. Regarding Steele's final conclusion, Sui could only smack his lips and had nothing to say. It really is a pity. I wanted to invite His Excellency Great Magician to be our company's chief researcher and even wanted him to be the spokesperson for our company's products. According to what you said, isn't there no hope at all? Sui said in a helpless voice. You're dreaming, right? Steele looked at Sui before asking in a curious voice, but what do you mean by chief researcher and spokesperson? Why have I never heard of it before? Chief researcher. Actually, it's to help me research magic arrays for magic machines. Because your grandfather is a great magician and is the strongest, of course he can become chief researcher. Well, the meaning of chief is number one. Boss, you should understand. Then spokesperson? This is my first time hearing this. What does it mean? Spokesperson. It's a bit complicated to talk about. Sui thought about the celebrity endorsements on Earth and thought about it before replying. The so-called spokesperson is to invite a person to be the spokesperson for our company's products. To be specific, we can use this person to replace the image of a product. With this person as the representative of the product, everyone will think of the product they're endorsing when they see this person. Normally speaking, the person chosen to be the spokesperson has to have a good image, and it's best if they have a certain amount of fame. That way, everyone will know about this person and indirectly know about the product, which is a combined method of advertising. If the product they're endorsing isn't good, wouldn't it damage the image of the spokesperson? Steele immediately asked back. Sui was stunned. Your reaction is quite fast. That's right, this is a combined method. The product and the spokesperson affect each other, so not only will the product have a problem with the product affect the image of the spokesperson, the problem with the spokesperson will also affect the product. So whether it is the spokesperson or the company choosing the spokesperson, they will all carefully consider it. You chose my grandfather to be the spokesperson for a very good idea. Still gave a soft snort. My grandfather is a great magician and is very famous in the entire Lampari kingdom. If everyone knew that my grandfather was endorsing something, they would definitely inquire about it. Besides, my grandfather has always been an upright person and has a very good image. That's why I thought of asking him to be the spokesperson. Sui spread his hands and said regretfully, but from the great magician's attitude, I'm afraid there's no need to mention this to him. He definitely won't agree. He'll be damned if he will agree. Steele nodded. She glanced at Sui and suddenly asked, By the way, Sui, since you asked someone to be your spokesperson, you must pay the spokesperson, right? Of course, how can I let someone work for free? Then can I ask, how much are you prepared to pay? That's not certain, it depends on who the spokesperson is. Normally speaking, the more famous they are and the better their image is, the higher the reward. If it's His Excellency Great Magician, I was prepared to give him 1,000 gold coins a year. 1,000 gold coins. Without waiting for Sui to finish, Steele's eyes popped out as she shouted in an exaggerated manner. That much? It's just a spokesperson? That's right, what about it? Steele looked at Sue with a strange look. Hey, Sue, you didn't sell that many magic fans, so how could you give my grandfather 1,000 gold coins right off the bat? Do you have that much money? Sue revealed a faint smile. You don't understand this, right? This is called advertising and it is a very good investment. This 1,000 gold coins seems quite a bit, but if you consider the benefits His Excellency Great Magician brings, it isn't considered much at all. After saying this, Sue couldn't help giving a sigh. It's a pity that His Excellency Great Magician won't agree, so everything I say is in vain. That's right, Steele. Are there any other great magicians you're familiar with? How about introducing them to me? Steele knit her brows to think before shaking her head. I do know a few great magicians through my grandfather, but Sue, I have to tell you the truth. These great magicians won't even put your small company in their eyes, so you should just give up on this idea. I think so too. Sue gave a self-deprecating laugh. My company doesn't have anything right now, so it's normal for those honored great magicians to look down on it. After putting this matter down, Sue suddenly thought of something else. That's right, still, Vivian said that before you left, you had her tell me to come find you. You have something to discuss with me, what is it? Yes, there is indeed something, but I found out that it seems to have been resolved. Steele smiled. Originally, I wanted to ask you if you could find something for me to do. Now that I'm by Grandpa's side, I'm very idle every day. It's boring, but you're always so busy. Maybe you can find something for me to do. Sue looked at Steele seriously and thought that she suddenly wanted to find something to do. Was she trying to heal the wound in her heart through work? If you want to find something to do, that's not a problem. For example, when I said that I wanted to invite your grandfather to be the chief researcher, it's actually because I plan to have an exclusive magic array research lab in the city. If you're interested, you can come here to do magic array research and help me make a new product. I'm indeed interested in this job, and I was going to ask you to arrange this kind of work for me. But after hearing what you said, I feel that another job is more interesting. Steele narrowed her big eyes and said with a smile, What job? Still slowly sat up and revealed a bright smile that was as bright as the sun. She slightly opened her 2 rows of silver teeth and said in a soft voice, Sue, what do you think about letting me be your company's spokesperson? Chapter 32. Look carefully. Place the thick end in this direction and then carefully place it into this groove. Sue picked up a screw stub and placed it into the capping machine. You have to remember clearly from now on. After putting it in, you have to move further away from the machine and you definitely can't put your hands in. Otherwise, when the machine starts moving, it will break your hands, do you understand? Surrounding Sue in a circle were the 100 slaves Viscount Leslie had temporarily lent him. Hearing Sue's serious orders, they all nodded to show they understood. Good, I'll press this switch next. Sue reached out to softly press the capping machine's switch. The light blue and red light representing the flow of magic flashed and the capping machine's head fell down. Hong! The sudden explosion scared the surrounding slaves, and several timid slaves even squatted down with their hands on their heads, their bodies trembling. Don't be afraid, this isn't an explosion. Everyone stand up and look. Sue reprimanded them as he worked hard to restore order among the slaves. Under the gaze of the slaves, Sue took out the finished stub from the capping machine's groove and raised it for everyone to see. Do you see that? There's a cross-shaped groove on the thick end, which means that the process is complete. What you need to do now is to use your tools to see if the cross-shaped groove meets the specifications. Sue took out a sharp cross-shaped iron rod and inserted it into the top of the screw stub, perfectly fitting it. Do you see this? If it fits perfectly into the groove, it means it's qualified and can be taken to the next step. The slaves nodded as if they didn't understand. 4 slaves with status like them, magic was something that didn't have anything to do with them at all. Not to mention the complicated and mysterious machine in front of them. If it was a normal situation, they wouldn't dare imagine that they would have the chance to touch this machine or even control it. But since they came here, under Su Yi's orders, Heinz treated the slaves equally and took care of their daily lives very well. This made the slaves feel very grateful towards Su Yi and Heinz. Therefore, when Su Yi pointed at 3 slaves to have them try to control it, even if they were a bit afraid of the machine, they still obediently came forward to control it. Actually, the capping machine was very simple to control, and these slaves had normal intelligence. Under Su Yi's personal guidance, they overcame their fear of the machine and quickly grasped the process of the machine. Seeing that the 3 slaves were gradually becoming familiar with it, Su Yi gave a satisfied nod. He signaled for them to keep working before bringing the remaining slaves to another machine. Compared to the previous machine, this magic thread rolling machine is a bit more troublesome to operate, so you have to seriously look at it. You can't make a single mistake. Su Yi picked another 5 slaves and showed them how to operate the magic thread rolling machine, ensuring that they didn't have any questions. After demonstrating the magic thread rolling machine, Su Yi brought the remaining slaves to the final machine. This machine was a small magic punch press that was newly developed by Su Yi and Master Lanus. This machine is relatively simple to operate, but it is much more dangerous than the other 2 machines. If you're not careful, it won't be a problem to turn you into a meat patty, so you have to be careful. Since these slaves didn't know how dangerous this magic machine was, Su Yi had to warn them ahead of time. He had to give strict requirements and standardized procedures to ensure that there wouldn't be any accident. Look carefully, first put this iron plate here. You have to be careful, you have to make sure that this iron plate is completely stuck to the model, there can't be any gap. Next, you have to close the model and move back a bit before pressing the switch here. Purring. The 2 large modules in the small magic punch press were pressed together and the flat iron plate turned into a semicircular fan shell under the large pressure. This small magic punch press was naturally used to mass-produce the fan shell. In this workshop that had been built for less than 2 days, there were already 5 different kinds of magic machines. They were responsible for the components of the 2nd generation variable speed magic fan. With the help of these machines, the requirements for the craftsmanship of the workers were greatly reduced. So Su Yi could even throw away the blacksmiths in Banta City and just rely on the slaves that Viscount Leslie sent over to complete the production of the magic fans. Of course, the core component of the magic fan, the magic array base, still needed to be completed by the students. After teaching the slaves how to operate the machines, Su Yi scattered the slaves and taught them how to assemble the components into a complete magic fan. If it was said that assembling the magic fan was a very complicated process, then after dividing this process into several steps, it was incomparably simple. A portion of the slaves only needed to learn how to put the components together. Another portion of the slaves only needed to thread the thin iron wires together to create a protective net. There was also a portion of slaves that had an even simpler job, which was putting in the screws. These slaves had never received any education before, so naturally their comprehension abilities weren't that high. But as long as their intelligence was normal, there was no problem in grasping these simple processes. Su Yi had been busy all morning and these slaves were already familiar with their own processes. The entire workshop was filled with a tense working atmosphere. Su Yi happily looked at his results and gave a satisfied nod. Next, he just needed to adjust the number of workers in charge of each process based on the efficiency of the slaves, making the entire assembly line more smooth. As for this part of the work, of course it was arranged by Heinz as the factory manager. It didn't need Su Yi to personally take care of it. Seeing the slaves becoming more and more familiar with the machines, Su-yi suddenly found that he seemed to have overlooked an advantage of signs. Compared to the highly developed industrial system on Earth, perhaps there were many things that signs couldn't compare to. But there was one advantage that Earth couldn't compare to signs. That was energy. The main types of energy on Earth were oil, coal, water, wind, solar, nuclear, and etc. Among these types of energy, whether it was the most widely used oil, coal, or the developing nuclear energy, they all had a fatal flaw, which was that the pollution they caused was very serious. In any industrialized country on Earth, the environment would be polluted and destroyed in the process of industrialization. In the end, they would have to spend large amounts of manpower and resources to clean up the environment. As for the less polluted water, wind, and solar energy, because of the low efficiency of energy, they were far from being mainstream. Compared to this, the magic machines that Su-yi was currently researching all used magic arrays to power them. What kept the magic arrays running were magic crystals. No matter what kind of magic array it was, after the magic crystal used up all the magic inside, it would turn into a normal stone and wouldn't cause any pollution at all. Even the highest quality magic crystals were completely condensed from magic. If the magic was used up, the entire magic crystal would disappear and not leave a single trace, so naturally there wouldn't be any pollution. Other than this, the magic crystals had an even bigger advantage, which was that they had a very high energy conversion rate. Only a small piece of low-quality magic crystal was enough to run the magic fan for 3 days. If it was a normal electric fan from Earth, it would take at least 3 kilowatts of electricity to run. If these 3 kilowatts of electricity were converted into energy, according to Earth standards, it would take over a kilogram of coal. At the same time, it would emit close to 4 kilograms of carbon dioxide. Whether it was the energy conversion rate or the pollution level, the magic crystals had an incomparable advantage. Not to mention that because signs had a very low industrial base, the magic fan that Su-yi developed had a much higher energy consumption than the electric fans that had been improved from Earth. If they could reach Earth's standards in this aspect, the consumption of magic crystals would be even lower. As for magic crystals, they could be seen all over signs. Just outside Banta City, there were 3 large-scale magic crystal mines. Moreover, because magic crystals were too common, other than those high-quality magic crystal mines, no one cared about normal magic crystal mines at all. Heinz, go and buy some magic crystal mines. Su-yi suddenly spoke to Heinz, who was watching the slaves work on the side. Huh? Why are you suddenly buying magic crystal mines? Even if he was already used to Su-yi's wild thoughts, Heinz was still stunned. If we want magic crystals, we can just buy them from other companies. If we mine them ourselves, the cost will be even higher. No, we have to buy a few mines. We even have to buy as many as we can, the more the better, Su-yi said with a serious look. Remember, for something like energy, it will only decrease the more you use it. No matter what, holding it in your hands is the best choice. Heinz looked at Su-yi with knit brows, not knowing why he would suddenly have this idea. But he also understood that his foresight in this aspect was far from Su-yi's. Since he made this decision, he must have his reasons. All right, I'll do it. Su-yi grabbed Heinz's shoulder and said in a deep voice, Remember, you have to do this quickly and keep it a secret, do you understand? Heinz couldn't help muttering in his heart. Keep it a secret? This wasn't even worth mentioning. Was there a need to keep it a secret? Chapter 33. There was an old saying, dreams are plentiful, but reality is bony. Su-yi thought that since he was familiar with the industrialization process of his original world, he could seize resources ahead of time and buy 8 or 10 magic crystal mines. Then the price of magic crystals would increase, and he would have no worries just by relying on these magic crystal mines. Who would have thought that he would be hit by the cruel reality? This reality was no money. Sir Chairman, the company only has 361 gold coins left. According to my investigation, if you want to buy the cheapest magic crystal mine in Banta City, you need to invest at least 3,000 gold coins. Seabass expressionlessly stated this cruel reality to Su-yi, not caring about how ugly Su-yi's expression was at all. At least 3,000 gold coins? Su-yi calculated with a sunken face. Based on this, we need at least a month before we can consider this matter? Sir Guild Leader, this is still impossible. Seabass shook his head. Although if everything goes smoothly for the company, we can indeed have a net income of more than 5,000 gold coins, but Sir President, as a qualified company, we should at least keep enough liquid capital for ourselves. Otherwise, if something happens, I'm afraid the company will face a serious crisis. Other than this, forgive me for being rude, Sir Chairman has too many investments. Just the funds used for research take up a third of the company's income. This is not a healthy way to operate the company's funds. Oh! Su-yi looked at Seabass and said with a smile, "Is this your idea or the Lord Viscount's idea?" This Seabass was actually someone recommended by Viscount Leslie. According to what Viscount Leslie said, according to his agreement with Su-yi, he didn't have the right to make decisions for the company, but he did have the right to make suggestions and the right to know. So he sent someone to the company as his representative. Hines was very worried about this, feeling that this was a chess piece that Viscount Leslie had placed in the company. Even if Viscount Leslie made it sound good now, he would definitely use this chess piece to influence the company's decisions in the future, even gradually controlling the company. Su-yi's reaction was completely different from Hines's. Since Viscount Leslie already had 30% of the New Flyers' shares, it was a reasonable request for him to send a representative to the company, so there was no reason to reject him. Not to mention that there were many things they needed Viscount Leslie for right now. If they rejected Viscount Leslie's reasonable request from the beginning, then the cooperation agreement from before would be gone. As for Hines's worry about Viscount Leslie using Seabass to control the New Flyer, Su-yi scoffed at it. Viscount Leslie was a Viscount of the kingdom, a proper noble. In a small city like Banta City, other than the city lord, he was one of the top people. Because of the family behind him, his position in Banta City wasn't lower than the Lord City Lords. Relatively speaking, even if their Frestec Chamber of Commerce earned quite a bit of money from selling magic fans, if it was just based on the strength of their company, they weren't that strong in Banta City. As for other aspects, naturally they weren't strong at all. For a powerful noble like Viscount Leslie, if he really wanted to make a move against the New Flyer, he didn't need to go through all this trouble. He had 100 more direct and simple methods to swallow the New Flyer. So Su-yi happily accepted Seabass. After learning that Seabass had been the financial manager of a company before, he gave all the financial management of the New Flyer to him. Facts proved that this Seabass was indeed a rare talent. In just 2 days, he had finished calculating the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's finances. It was very organized. It wasn't as messy as it was when Su-yi and Hines were the only ones checking the account. Hines was very worried that Seabass was in charge of the company's finances, but Su-yi was secretly happy. He felt that Viscount Leslie had done a great thing, sending him a rare talent. Of course, there were times when Su-yi had misgivings about Viscount Leslie behind Seabass, so he asked this question. Hearing Su-yi's question, Seabass gave a bow. This is this subordinate's personal opinion, it isn't related to the Lord Viscount. Su-yi said with a nod, "It's fine, it doesn't matter whose opinion it is." Seabass, do you think that a third of the income for research is too much? Actually, I feel that it's too little. Because the current income of the company isn't high, this so-called third is only around 1,000 gold coins. Actually, this research fund is very low in my opinion. As the income of the company increases, I will continue to invest a large amount in research. Perhaps it will be more than you can imagine. Seabass was silent for a bit before saying with knit brows, "Sir Chairman, I don't understand why you would make this kind of decision. Right now the Magic Fan sales are very good and its prospects are very good, so you don't need to invest that much money in research. Although I also agree that if you want to keep occupying the market, it is necessary to develop a new generation of Magic Fans, but you don't need to be in such a rush, right? Other than that, Sir Chairman, you've invested a lot of money in research. I'm afraid it isn't related to the Magic Fan at all, right?" Sui revealed a faint smile. He thought that this final question was the real question in Seabass' heart, and it should also be Viscount Leslie's question. Sui really didn't know how to answer this question. After all, based on reality, most of his investment in research was not related to the Magic Fan. For example, in Master Lanus' dwarven tribe, he had invested 500 gold coins in a single month. At the same time, after the dwarven craftsman that he had agreed on arrived, Sui had invested another 200 gold coins in them, and it was gradually increasing. Other than this, even if he only had Steel as a researcher for the newly established Academy of Magic, he had invested over 100 gold coins in it. This was a large amount of close to 1,000 gold coins, but it didn't seem like it was related to the Magic Fan at all. Moreover, the results of this research couldn't be seen in a short period of time. Even if Sui wanted to explain that this research was related to the future industrial system, there wouldn't be a single person on the continent who would understand. Seabass, let me ask you a question. Why do you think our company's Magic Fan is selling so well? Sui thought about it before asking back. It's accurate. Seabass had clearly already researched this question, so he replied without any hesitation. Compared to the expensive large-scale frost array, the Magic Fan that only costs 2 gold coins is much easier for most families who don't have the ability to lay down large-scale frost arrays and need to deal with the heat of summer. Not to mention that the consumption of the Magic Fan is very low. After buying it, they don't spend more than 10 silver coins on it each month, which is something that all the families that buy the Magic Fan can afford. So for these families, even if the Magic Fan's effects can't compare to the large-scale frost array, it can still satisfy their need. So after seeing the Magic Fan appear, these families didn't hesitate to buy it, and because of this, the Magic Fan sold well. That's right. Sui gave a nod of praise. Then let me ask you again, is the Magic Fan very hard to make? It should be said that it isn't hard. Seabass shook his head. Actually, not long after the Magic Fan appeared, there were already imitations. Only the quality of the imitations couldn't compare to the ones our company made, so it didn't cause that much of an impact. Moreover, Sir Chairman's methods back then were very outstanding, allowing our company to smoothly pass that crisis. After saying this, Seabass looked at Sui with a trace of admiration. Sui had raised the concept of branding in the face of the imitations, which indeed filled Seabass' heart with admiration. Before being sent here by Viscount Leslie, Seabass had done some research on the new flyer. He was surprised to find that after the imitations incident, the sales of the new flyer Magic Fans didn't fall, but rather increased. Moreover, when many people wanted to buy the Magic Fan, they would first ask if it was the Xinfei brand. If it wasn't, they wouldn't buy it. This caused the small workshops that wanted to imitate the Magic Fan to give up on this idea. Although there were some fellows who wanted to imitate the Xinfei brand on their Magic Fans, Sui had withdrawn from the exclusive store system. This meant that the Xinfei brand Magic Fans were only sold in a single store in Banta City, the other places were all imitations. This had completely cut off the path of imitations, so now Banta City was completely monopolized by the Xinfei brand Magic Fans. Since it isn't hard to make, it means that it is very hard for us to stop others from making Magic Fans. After saying this, a helpless look appeared on Suyi's face. There was no patent protection law in this world, so even if he invented the Magic Fan, there was no corresponding protection. If others wanted to imitate it, it wouldn't take any effort. Even if we don't have any problems in Banta City, outside of Banta City, no one knows what the Shinfei brand is. So in other places, we don't have an advantage. You should already know that in Sultan City, that is less than 100 kilometers away, there is a factory that also makes magic fans. Moreover, their sales in Sultan City are also quite good. Chapter 34. So, Sir Chairman, I suggest that we open the market in other cities as soon as possible. I've investigated it, and the quality of the magic fans produced by the factory in Sultan City can't compare to the Shinfei magic fan. I believe that as long as we start selling in Sultan City, we will definitely steal the market there. Seabass said with a serious look. We definitely have to steal it, but we can't be in a rush. Sultan City is someone else's territory after all. Even if the quality is good, if we rashly rush in, it won't be that easy to steal it. Right now, I'm waiting for a good chance. And this opportunity is actually obtained from those doubts that you have. Seabass was stunned. He had been led around by Sue for a while, and almost forgot about his questions from before, but he never thought that Sue would take the initiative to bring it back. Sir Chairman, the research you've invested in is not related to the magic fan at all. Sue stretched out his right index finger and shook it. No, Seabass, in the entire industrial system, there isn't a single piece of research that isn't related to other things. Although the magic fan seems very simple, there are many things that are related to it. You can see that the research I've invested in isn't related to the magic fan, but when the results come out, you'll find that they are very related to the magic fan. Each piece of research can even cause a large change in the magic fan. Not to mention, who told you that our new flyer can only produce magic fans? Seabass' eyes couldn't help popping out. Hearing Su Yi's meaning, he was actually developing a new product? He wanted to ask, but Su Yi didn't give him a chance. He stood up and pointed outside. All right, let's go outside and take a look. It's been this long, Steel and the others should be done by now. Seabass could only helplessly follow behind Su Yi. While walking, Seabass was digesting what Su Yi had just said in his mind. Industrial system? What is that? It sounds like it's very important. Other than that, what is the new product he mentioned? Will it create a craze like the magic fan? Lord Viscount should be very interested in this. Su Yi and Seabass' conversation took place in an inner room of a house. After leaving the room, they found themselves in a relatively spacious hall. In the center of the hall, Steel was standing there, and in front of her, there was a magic fan that was parallel to her face, blowing a cool breeze at her. This magic fan was clearly different from the Frestec brand magic fan from before. It was more rounded and it was a bit smaller, making it look more delicate. This was the second-generation variable speed magic fan that had already been developed and put into production. Steel on the other side of the magic fan was wearing a pure white dress today. With the cool breeze, Steel's golden hair slightly fluttered. Adding in the fact that her skirt kept fluttering in the wind, she looked very elegant. Steel was already beautiful, but now that she was in this position, it added a bit of charm to her. Looking at her from the side, her face was simply glowing. It was so beautiful that people couldn't look straight at her. Hearing the footsteps behind her, Steel turned back to look at Su Yi. She gave him a playful smile which actually made Su Yi's heart strangely skip a few beats. If this fellow was placed on Earth, would she really become a star? Su Yi thought in his heart. After making a hand gesture to Steel to have her focus, Su Yi came to the other corner of the hall. On the side facing Still, there was a painter. On the giant canvas in front of him, there was a drawing that was nearing completion. It's very good. Su Yi took a look and immediately praised it. Other than the complete depiction of the magic fan and Still, there was also a background of a field in the wild. The composition of the painting was very good, fully depicting Steele's image and charm. It made people unable to stop themselves from being attracted to it. Sue stood beside the painter for a while, and the painter finally finished his final stroke. He let out a long sigh of relief, and his spirited expression instantly became incomparably tired. It could be seen that drawing this painting had consumed quite a bit of his energy. "Master Anlios, it's been hard on you." Sue brought over a cold drink that he had already prepared. Master Anlios only noticed Sue now. He took the cold drink and revealed a confident smile as he pointed at the canvas and asked, "Chairman Sue, what do you think?" Sue wasn't stingy at all as he gave him a thumbs up. "Very good, Master Anlios really is the best painter in Arbanta City. This painting is simply perfect." Of course it was perfect. This painter was someone that Sue had spent a sky-high price of 50 gold coins to invite. If he couldn't draw this painting, wouldn't Sue have spent 50 gold coins for nothing? Master Anlios laughed. "Chairman Sue, actually the main reason why this painting is this outstanding is because of young Miss Steele. I was just portraying her beauty. Don't you think that just by standing there, young Miss Steele herself is a painting?" Sue turned to look at Steele walking over and gave a slight nod. "This, I really can't agree to anything else." Master Anlios and Sue looked at each other and broke out in laughter at the same time. "Hey, Sue, what are you talking about? Why are you laughing so happily?" Steele came over and asked this. "Master Anlios is praising you for being beautiful," Sue said with a smile. "Thank you for Master Anlios' praise." Steele revealed a sweet smile to Master Anlios before turning to Sue and asking, "What about you? Don't you think I'm beautiful?" Sue couldn't help smiling, thinking that little girls really loved to be beautiful. "Of course I agree," Sue replied in a very serious voice. "Is there anyone in this world who doesn't agree that you're beautiful? Tell me, I'll dig out their eyes. Anyway, they're useless." Steele gave a laugh before softly hitting Sue. "You're too exaggerated." Although she said this, the expression on her face clearly revealed the joy in her heart. Sue looked at the canvas again before suddenly saying to Steele, "Steele, I have a strong feeling that you'll be famous soon and you'll be very famous. Don't you feel pressured?" "Why?" Steele asked in a surprised voice. "Isn't it just doing what you said and filming an advertisement? Why would I be very famous?" Sue revealed a smile. As the first advertisement for the second-generation variable speed magic fan, he was prepared to go all out this time. With Steele's appearance and aura, it would be strange if she wasn't famous. They chatted for a bit before Master Anlios and Seabass left to settle the payment while preparing for the advertisement's release. Sue and Steele looked at each other before Sue made an inviting gesture to Steele. "Beautiful young Miss Steele, can I have the honor of inviting you to lunch?" Steele deliberately had a straight face. "I'm sorry, this mister. I normally don't accept other people's invitations, unless that person is a handsome uncle." Sue's eyes opened wide in surprise as he pointed at himself. "Handsome uncle? Isn't that me?" Steele's face couldn't keep a straight face as she gave a laugh and said, "You're finally willing to admit that you're an uncle? Then this handsome uncle, may I ask what you're planning to treat me to?" How about a bowl of fresh and refined noodles like you?" "Damn, how can noodles be fresh and refined? And the same as me?" "Ha, this is what you don't understand. Noodles are slender, flexible, and elastic." While talking and laughing, Sue and Steele arrived at a small restaurant nearby and found a seat to sit down. Because of work these days, the two often ate together. They had already come to this small restaurant several times, so they were already familiar with it. "Right, Sue, the matter I mentioned to you last time, have you considered it?" As soon as they sat down, Steele asked this. "What matter?" Sue was surprised, but then he remembered. "Oh, it's those classmates of yours, right? Didn't I say last time that I would welcome them? Could it be that you're still waiting for my reply and haven't contacted them yet? Last time Steele and Sue had suddenly mentioned that although she had graduated from the Lampuri Royal Academy, she had kept in contact with many of her classmates. Now that those classmates knew that Steele was working at Suyi's new Academy of Magic, specializing in magic arrays for magic machines, there were several people who were interested in this and asked Sue if he was willing to accept them. Sue naturally welcomed them. His biggest headache right now was the lack of talent, especially when it came to magic arrays. Other than him, he couldn't find anyone else to help him. After Steele came, she had indeed helped him with quite a bit of work, but Steele was only one person, so it was far from enough. Now that he could have several Steele's classmates, Sue was naturally very happy. Of course not, I've already contacted them, and there are 3 people who want to come, but… Steele paused as if she was a bit embarrassed. They want me to ask, what kind of treatment are you giving them? Treatment? Sue looked at the embarrassed Steele, and couldn't help smiling. Steele, I haven't even seen them, and I don't know their strength, so how could I know what kind of treatment I should give them? I understand that, but you have to give them a minimum guarantee, right? Otherwise, if they come all the way here and they're not satisfied with the treatment you give them, wouldn't they have come for nothing? Steele looked at Sue with a hint of expectation. You see, you gave me 15 gold coins a month, you can't give them less than that, right? How about this, Steele? You contact the 3 of them again and tell them that I'm inviting them here as the president of the new flyer. During this time, all their expenses, including transportation, accommodation, and any other expenses, will be paid by the new flyer. If both sides are satisfied, then they can try it out for a month, and their monthly payment will be 10 gold coins. If both sides are satisfied after the trial period, then they will become official researchers of the Research Institute, and their monthly payment will be the same as yours, 15 gold coins. If the Research Institute produces any results, the Chamber of Commerce will reward them according to the specific situation. As for the amount of money, it depends on the result. What do you think? Steele nodded repeatedly. Very good, that's all. I'll write them a letter in a moment. Sue smiled and was about to say a few more words, when he suddenly glanced at the entrance of the restaurant and couldn't help but frown. Chapter 35. 4 people came in from the restaurant's entrance. Walking at the front was a middle-aged man with a plump figure that could be described as round. And the 3 people following him made Sue somewhat surprised. They were actually Simmerat, Reynolds, and Wella. What made Sue even more surprised was Simmerat's attitude. Because this guy's magic strength was ranked 2nd in the research lab, he had always been very arrogant. But now, in front of this plump middle-aged man, he was slightly bowing with a fawning smile on his face. Although he couldn't be said to be groveling, his attitude was extremely low. It was the complete opposite of the impression he gave to Sue. And although Reynolds, who was behind him, wasn't as obvious as Simmerat, his attitude towards the middle-aged man also revealed a trace of flattery, completely different from his usual carefree appearance in the research lab. On the contrary, Wella still maintained her usual cold appearance. Sue even saw a trace of disdain on her face. He didn't know if the target of her disdain was the middle-aged man, or Simmerat and Reynolds. Steele saw Suyi's strange reaction and turned her head to look at the entrance, but was immediately surprised. The small restaurant wasn't large, and Sue and Steele's seats weren't far from the entrance. When the 2 of them saw Simmerat and the other 3, Wella, who was at the back, also saw the 2 of them at the same time. Sue, Steele, why are you also here? Wella asked in astonishment. Simmerat was originally persuading the middle-aged man to change places for lunch, but when he heard Sue and Steele's names suddenly come out of Wella's mouth, he was immediately stunned. Turning his gaze, he saw Sue and Steele sitting opposite each other at a table. There was no one else beside them, so his face slightly sank. This damn Sui. What is he doing? He actually wants to have lunch alone with Miss Steele in this kind of place? Damn it. Hey, Wella, why did you guys run over here? Sui raised his hand to greet Wella and Reynolds, intentionally or unintentionally ignoring Cimarron. This place is quite a distance away from the magic tower. You guys didn't come here just for lunch, did you? Wella shot a glance at Reynolds. Reynolds smiled awkwardly and replied, We came here to accompany a guest. Guest? Sui sized up the middle-aged man and found that he exuded a shrewd aura from head to toe. He didn't look like a magician at all. I'm afraid you're not a guest of the magic tower, are you? Can you introduce him to me? Of course, I can introduce you, but Sui, I'm afraid you're not qualified to know him. Cimarron sneered. Let me tell you, this is President Farsak from Sultan City. President Farsak's Farsak Chamber of Commerce is one of the largest chamber of commerce in Sultan City. It's not something some small chambers of commerce can compare to. At this point, Cimarron deliberately glanced at Sui, the meaning of which was obvious. Sui, if you want to know him, at least wait until your magic power reaches my level. Hearing Cimarron's answer and seeing his condescending and overbearing appearance, Sui wasn't angry at all. Instead, he found it somewhat funny. This guy kept saying that he wanted to pursue Steele, but now in front of Steele, he made such a clumsy move. Could it be that he expected Steele to look at him favorably just because he knew the president of some large chamber of commerce? Sure enough, Steele lightly snorted and said with a sullen face, What's so great about the president of a large chamber of commerce? I don't know who's stronger, him or my grandfather. Cimarron, you don't have to brag about your magic power in front of Sui. Let me tell you, he just hasn't learned magic for a long time. As long as he has enough time, I guarantee that he will be much stronger than you. Cimarron never thought that Steele would refute him so rudely in front of everyone, and even stand up for Sui without any scruples. Thinking back to the fact that the two of them were having lunch alone just now, Cimarron only felt a wave of anger rush out of his heart, and his gaze towards Sui immediately became extremely sharp. Sui met his gaze with a smile, and didn't back down at all. There was even a hint of mockery in his eyes. Cimarron, whether I'm qualified to know President Farsak or not should be decided by President Farsak himself, and not by you, right? Cimarron gave a strong snort. You think that an honorable person like President Farsak would waste time to meet a small person like you who hasn't even passed the magician certification examination? After saying this, he turned to the fat middle-aged man and adjusted his expression. He made an inviting gesture as he said, President Farsak, let's go somewhere else to have lunch, this place will ruin your mood. Our Banta City has several good restaurants, so it isn't too late for us to go now. President Farsak acted like he didn't hear Cimarron's words at all, rather he carefully looked over Sui several times before asking in front of everyone's doubtful gazes, May I ask? Are you the new flyers, Mr. Sui? When this was said, everyone was stunned. Based on this appearance, this President Farsak who Cimarron said had an incomparably honorable status actually knew Sui? Sui was also a bit surprised before saying with a smile, That's right, I am Sui. President Farsak, do you know me? Hearing Sui's confirmation, President Farsak laughed. He directly reached out his hands to Sui and said in an incomparably polite voice, Although I didn't know you before, Chairman Su's name has been like thunder to my ears, and I've long wanted to meet you. To be honest, other than some small matters, the most important matter for me coming to Banta City this time is to have a good chat with Chairman Su. I wonder if Chairman Su. After saying this, President Farsak paused and looked at Steele on the side. I wonder if you have time now. Can you give me the honor of inviting you to afternoon tea? President Farsak was actually this polite to Sui, it could even be said that he was respectful. This made the people on the side stunned. Steele, Renault, and Wella kept looking over Sui and President Farsak's faces, filled with curiosity. Cimarat's face was ashen. He never thought that President Farsak, who he thought was a big backer, would suddenly be this polite to Sui, who he always looked down on. This was simply a resounding slap to his face. Moreover, it was in front of Steele. President Farsak is too polite. I wonder what you want to discuss with me? Sui wasn't in a rush to agree, rather he tentatively asked this. It's just discussing some cooperation. I think that Chairman Su will definitely be interested. President Farsak replied. Sui looked at President Farsak in surprise. After thinking about it, he said to Steele, Steele, it seems like I'm busy and can't accompany you for now. Steele waved his hand without caring. Business is more important, you can go. Sui nodded. He stood up and gave Renault and Wella a faint smile before leaving with President Farsak. When they left, President Farsak didn't even say a word to Cimarat's group of three. Steele looked at the stunned Cimarat and gave a cold laugh. He looked at Renault and Wella before also giving a nod and leaving. Renault and Wella looked at each other before giving a sigh and also leaving. Only Cimarat was left in the small restaurant with an ashen face. Hashtag. After leaving the small restaurant, President Farsak and Sui found a quiet coffee shop. When they sat down, President Farsak said, Chairman Su, it's hard to see you and time is precious, so I'll be direct. The project I want to cooperate with you is related to the magic fan. Sui revealed a faint smile. New Flyer only had a single product, the magic fan, so if they wanted to cooperate, of course it would be related to the magic fan. I wonder, how does President Farsak want to cooperate? If you want to sell a large amount of them in Sultan City, it's very simple. Our New Flyer already has a complete process, you just need to buy them. Sui said. President Farsak shook his head. Of course it's not that simple. If it was just like this, I wouldn't even need to look for you, right? Sui nodded. All right, then I ask President Farsak to tell me your plans. It's like this. President Farsak coughed softly, as if he was organizing his words. Farsak shook his head. If we sell a large amount of magic fans from New Flyer, although we can earn quite a bit, it isn't very efficient. This is because the losses on the road are very serious, so to me, it doesn't make up for the losses. Therefore, after careful consideration, I hope to cooperate with your company and open a magic fan factory in our Sultan City. Sui slightly raised his brows. He thought that this President Farsak was thinking further than normal merchants. Although his method was rather troublesome, as long as it went smoothly, it would be done once and for all. The profits would be much higher than buying from here. President Farsak, if I remember correctly, your Sultan City already has a company producing magic fans. Of course, it isn't our Xinfei brand magic fan. But according to what I know, the magic fans sold in Sultan City have already been monopolized by this company. How can you guarantee that if you open a magic fan factory in Sultan City, you'll be able to sell it? Sui asked. President Farsak's chubby face revealed a very gentle smile. If it's just producing the same magic fan, of course it won't work. But if it's the Xinfei brand and it's the new generation Xinfei brand magic fan, I think it won't be a problem. Chapter 36. Heinz looked at the fatty looking around the workshop, and his heart was filled with confusion. Hey, Sui, what is this fellow doing? How can you let him look around the workshop? Wouldn't we have no secrets like this? Seeing that the fatty actually wanted to try operating the magic thread rolling machine, Heinz finally couldn't help asking this to Sui. Secrets? Sui pretended to be surprised as he looked at Heinz. What secrets? Nonsense, of course it's the production process of the magic fan. This is our company's secret. Heinz anxiously said. If these things were revealed, Wouldn't other people be able to make the second-generation variable speed magic fan like us? Heinz, you're too nervous. Sui patted Heinz's shoulder and signaled for him to relax. Then he pointed at the slaves working on the magic fan in the workshop and said, "Look, there are all these people in the workshop. Do you think there are any secrets? How is that the same? They are all our employees." Heinz's eyes widened. Heinz's eyes popped out. Then again, they are all Viscount Leslie's slaves. Even if they had 10 times the courage, they wouldn't dare casually reveal these things. The problem is that these things will be revealed sooner or later, right? Sui gave a shrug and said with a relaxed look, "Then again, I never thought of keeping these things a secret because it isn't important at all." How could it not be important? Heinz couldn't help but wave his arms. Heinz couldn't help waving his hand. Even if we can't keep it in the end, we can keep it for a bit longer. That means we have a bit more advantage over others, so isn't this important? Sui gave a shrug. He thought that it would take too much effort to explain his big ideas to a small-minded fellow like Heinz, so he didn't explain at all. He directly came to the side of Chairman Farsack, who was already preparing to operate the magic thread rolling machine. "Hey, Chairman Farsack, operating this machine is quite dangerous, so I suggest that you don't try it so easily." Chairman Farsack turned his head and gave a laugh to Sui. "Relax, I've been watching from the side for a while, there's no problem." Seeing that he was this excited, Sui didn't want to ruin his mood. He watched from the side, and if he found something wrong, he could pull him away at any time. However, although Chairman Farsack looked fat, he was very nimble. After watching from the side for a while, he operated the magic thread rolling machine very well and quickly finished processing a screw. Seeing the incomparably fine threads of the screw after it was processed, Chairman Farsack couldn't help praising it. "Great. This is really great. Chairman Su, although this is a small thing, if it was made by a blacksmith, it would take him an entire day to make this small thing. However, with this machine, it only takes less than a minute to make it." Sui laughed. He thought that you haven't seen the might of the advanced CNC machines from Earth, otherwise your chin would have fallen off from shock. "Chairman Farsack, now that you've finished looking at this workshop, what do you think?" Sui asked with a smile. Hearing this question, Chairman Farsack fell silent. He shook his head to look at the situation of the workshop for a while before saying with a sigh, "Chairman Su, I have to say, your workshop has really opened my eyes. I thought that making a magic fan would be a very complicated matter, but after coming to your workshop to take a look, I've found that making a magic fan is actually this simple. It's just some workers without any special skills, but they can easily and orderly assemble a magic fan. To be honest, I never thought that your small workshop would have such a high efficiency. Let me guess, your workshop can produce over 300 magic fans in a single day, right?" Sui gave him a thumbs up. "Chairman Farsack, your eyes really are sharp. That's right, this workshop can indeed produce over 300 magic fans each day. Of course, this is only limited to the second-generation variable speed magic fan. As for the first-generation magic fan, because of the design problem, it can't produce this much." Sui didn't tell him that the workshop's working hours were strictly controlled to 8 hours each day. If they worked overtime, it wasn't a problem to produce 500 magic fans each day. Only Sui had a high requirement for quality, so he strictly controlled the output and didn't make up the numbers. Chairman Farsack turned back to look at the machines being controlled by the slaves and said in a thoughtful voice, "Chairman Su, if I had to say something, the core of your workshop should be these machines, right?" Sui nodded with a faint smile. "Chairman Farsack, your eyes really are unique. How about it? What do you think of these machines?" "What do I think?" Chairman Farsack suddenly revealed a bitter smile. "Chairman Su, before I came here, I was very confident in cooperating with you. I even thought that you would obediently cooperate with me because there would only be benefits for you and no harm at all. But now that I've seen the machines over the past few days, I've found that our positions have been reversed. I have to admit, you've already taken the initiative. To be honest, I don't like this feeling at all. Sui laughed. Chairman Farsak, you're too modest. Since we're cooperating, there isn't any difference in status and there isn't any initiative. Cooperation is everyone taking what they need and achieving a win-win situation, don't you think? Win-win? Chairman Farsak's little eyes that were squeezed by his fat lit up. This word sounds very new, but it's very reasonable. That's right, the most perfect result of cooperation is a win-win situation. But Chairman Su, how do you think we should cooperate to achieve this win-win situation? Su-yi pointed at the machines with a grin. Chairman Farsak, I wonder if you're interested in buying a few of these machines back. Chairman Farsak was shocked. Chairman Su, you mean you're actually willing to sell these machines to me? Why wouldn't I? Su-yi spread out his hands. If I don't want to sell you these machines, then why do you think I brought you here? But these machines. Chairman Farsak rolled his eyes and changed the subject. All right, since you, Chairman Su, are willing to sell them, I'm naturally very happy to buy them. But Chairman Su, I'm afraid these machines alone aren't enough to constitute a cooperation between us, right? Of course, it's not just the machines, there's also the manpower. I believe that you won't be able to find workers in Saltan City who can control these machines, so not only will I sell them to you, I'll also help you train workers. I'll also teach you how to assemble the second-generation variable-speed magic fan in this workshop, until your factory can smoothly operate like this workshop. What do you think of these conditions? Chairman Farsak narrowed his eyes and carefully looked at Su-yi for a while before suddenly saying, Chairman Su, you're not joking? Su-yi said with a faint smile, Would I joke with you at this time? Chairman Farsak nodded. After thinking for a bit, he slowly said, Chairman Su, I have to say, these conditions are just too generous. I even suspected that you were lying to me for a moment. Giving such generous conditions, your request shouldn't be low. How about you tell me about it? My request. It isn't high, but it also isn't low. It all depends on what Chairman Farsak thinks. Su-yi replied. There's still such a strange request? Chairman Su, please speak. My request is, 2 days later, Chairman Farsak finished his discussion with Su-yi and sat in a horse carriage leaving Banta City. Watching the horse carriage disappear into the horizon, Heinz said with knit brows, Su-yi, is this really all right? Although we can earn 10 silver coins for each magic fan they make, like this, we're giving up on Saltan City. If we really calculate it, wouldn't our losses be even bigger? Not to mention that we're giving away all the magic fan technology we have right now, so there will be many magic fan factories like them in the future. When the time comes, our space for development will be greatly limited. Su-yi revealed a faint smile and said with a shake of his head, No, Heinz, you should look at the long term. The magic fan is something that isn't hard to imitate, so it won't last long. If we want to keep taking the lead, we need to keep looking for new things and changes. This is based on our continuous research. As long as we can keep taking the lead in terms of technology, we can keep taking the lead. There is something I can tell you right now, you have to remember it. Heinz looked at Su-yi with rapt attention. He knew that every time Su-yi said something in this tone, it was very important. A third-rate company makes a product. For a company like Chairman Farsak, even if they build a factory, it will only be a third-rate company that makes magic fans. It won't have that much of an impact. A second-rate company makes a brand. I've already explained the concept of a brand to you before, but I think you still can't understand it. You and I have worked together for this long, and you still can't understand it. Then in this science world, perhaps there aren't many people who understand the meaning of a brand. Perhaps they know, but they don't know how to do it. and this is what our Frestec Chamber of Commerce is doing right now. The Xinfei brand is at least a very reputable brand in Banta City. As long as we don't do anything that ruins our own reputation, this brand can continue. The last and most important thing is that a first-rate company is the standard. This is the goal I'm working towards right now, but this goal is very hard, and we might need to spend a long time before we can reach this goal. But once we reach this goal, our new flyer can be said to be standing on the signs. Chairman Farsak might think that buying those magic machines from me is very profitable, but in my opinion, he has already fallen into my standard. Even if the Farsak Chamber of Commerce is stronger than us, they will still be thrown far behind us in the end. Heinz looked at Sui, not understanding why he had such strong confidence. In terms of scale, the Farsak Chamber of Commerce that was one of the best in Sultan City was several dozen times bigger than their small new flyer. Not to mention surpassing them, it would be hard to even approach them. But although he didn't understand Su Yi's words, Heinz felt that they were very powerful. At least this proved that Su Yi already had a long-term plan in his mind, so his actions shouldn't be messing around. Seeing Su Yi's confident face, Heinz's heart skipped a beat. Perhaps this fellow will really make New Flyer one of the top companies in the signs world. Chapter 37. Su Yi had explained many things to Heinz, but he didn't explain the most important point. It wasn't that he didn't want to explain, rather Heinz wouldn't understand even if he did. Or to put it more simply, no one in signs could understand. Because this was the most important point, it was related to the industrial system that Su Yi had planned in his heart. In the process of industrialization, the light industry was the surface and the heavy industry was the core. Even if there were 10,000 or 100,000 magic fans, it was just the development of a single product. It could only be said that the light industry in signs had a small development. If these 10,000 or 100,000 units were converted into various machines, it was a completely different matter. The reason why Su Yi chose to sell the magic punch press and the magic thread rolling machine. These magic machines to Chairman Farsak, even agreeing to sell the technology for the second-generation variable speed fan, other than for business considerations. The most important reason was to promote these magic machines in signs. These magic machines that represented the foundation of the heavy industry had a strong production ability, so he believed that they would soon become popular in signs. As for the popularization of these magic machines, it meant that the heavy industry had taken a very significant step forward. It was very important for Su Yi to create a complete industrial system in signs. These things, other than a mechanical engineer like him who had transmigrated from Earth, who else could understand? But there was one thing that Su Yi had to agree on. Although the heavy industry was the core of the industrial system, if one wanted to quickly earn money, the best choice was to constantly innovate new industries. So while Su Yi was researching new magic machines with the dwarven craftsmen, he didn't stop researching new products. That night, Su Yi saw Viscount Leslie in the manor again. Su Yi, I heard that you've been very busy recently. Why do you suddenly have time to see me? Viscount Leslie seemed to like the pond in the manor very much. Even if the sun had set and the weather wasn't that hot, he still stayed in the wooden house beside the pond to see Su Yi. Lord Viscount, would you believe me if I told you that coming to see you is also part of my job? Su Yi smiled. Oh. Viscount Leslie looked at Su Yi before his eyes fell onto the strange-looking long iron box beside Su Yi. Is it because of this thing? Lord Viscount, you have good eyes. Su Yi praised before looking at the white-haired butler Brunei. Shaking his head, he turned to Viscount Leslie and said, Lord Viscount, help me put this thing up. Butler Brunei knit his brows. When he was about to speak, Viscount Leslie raised his hand to stop him. Viscount Leslie excitedly stood up and looked at Su Yi. What do you want me to do? Sue looked around the wooden house and found an iron shelf with a painting on it. He pointed at it and said, "Help me put this thing on it." The two of them were young and strong, so it was naturally easy for them to put this thing down. When it was put down according to Sue's instructions, Viscount Leslie looked around and couldn't help asking, "Sue, now you should tell me what this thing is, right?" Sue laughed. "Don't be anxious, you'll understand it after you use it." After saying this, he pressed the switch under the iron box and turned to close all the doors and windows of the wooden house. Viscount Leslie and Butler Brunei saw Sue's actions and felt it was strange. "Sue, what are you doing?" Viscount Leslie wanted to ask, but he suddenly felt a cool breeze that blew over his face. It instantly dispelled the heat brought by Sue closing the doors and windows. It was different from the magic fan. This breeze was very cold. It wasn't like the breeze from the magic fan that made people feel hot when it blew over them. Not long after, the air in the little wooden house was completely cooled by the cool breeze that kept blowing, not feeling the heat of summer at all. After feeling this cool breeze for a while, Viscount Leslie looked at Sue and asked, "Tell me, just what is this thing?" Seeing the serious expression on Viscount Leslie's face, Sue revealed a faint smile. He thought that this Lord Viscount really wasn't an idiot. He could already see that this thing wasn't normal. "This thing is called the Magic Air Conditioner. What does the Lord Viscount think of this name?" "Magic Air Conditioner? Air Conditioner?" Viscount Leslie carefully thought about it for a bit. "The so-called air conditioner, it means air conditioning?" The Lord Viscount really isn't normal, understanding the meaning of this name this quickly. Sue praised. "That's right, it means air conditioning. This magic air conditioner can create a cool space for you in this kind of hot weather. I think that this name isn't excessive at all, right?" "Of course it isn't excessive." Viscount Leslie's eyes turned back to the magic air conditioner, and after seriously looking at it for a while, the look of praise on his face became stronger and stronger. "Sue, this magic air conditioner is your new product?" "That's right. Why did you bring it to me?" Viscount Leslie was a bit confused. "Since you've already developed it, you should immediately prepare to sell it. I can guarantee that as long as the price of this thing doesn't surpass the cost of a large-scale frost array, it will definitely sell well. The reason why I brought it here is because the Lord Viscount is a major shareholder of our company, so of course I have to let you take a look at the new product first. The second reason is because of the positioning of the product." "Positioning? What positioning?" Viscount Leslie and Butler Brunei looked at Sue with confused gazes. Before selling a product, we first need to determine the positioning of the product. Or to put it more simply, we need to determine what kind of people this product should be sold to. Sue slowly explained. Viscount Leslie pointed at himself. "You mean that I am the kind of person that you want to sell this magic air conditioner to?" "That's right." Sue nodded with a smile. "For this magic air conditioner, I've set it as a high-grade product for now, which means that it isn't suitable for normal families to use. It is only suitable for people with status like the Lord Viscount, and of course, the most important thing is that they have financial strength to use it. That's why I brought it here first. I wanted Lord Viscount to talk about your thoughts after using it. Now that you've used this magic air conditioner, do you think that this magic air conditioner is worth buying?" "It's like this." Viscount Leslie stroked his chin and thought for a bit before asking back. "First you have to tell me, how much money do I have to spend to buy this thing?" Sue raised 2 fingers. Viscount Leslie knit his brows. "It can't be 2 gold coins, that would be the same price as the magic fan. According to what you just said, it should be 20 gold coins?" Sue nodded. "This price isn't bad. If it was me, I would definitely be able to accept it." Viscount Leslie turned to look at the magic air conditioner on the wall. Viscount Leslie turned back to look at Viscount Leslie. there's another question: does this thing consume a lot of magic crystals? You should be very clear that it isn't that many families don't have the money to set up large-scale frost arrays, rather they can't support the consumption of large-scale frost arrays because that thing really does consume too many magic crystals. Sue revealed a faint smile. Lord Viscount, this is the biggest advantage of the magic air conditioner. For a magic air conditioner like this, although it consumes magic crystals faster than the magic fan, even if you let it run for an entire day, it would only consume 13 to 15 silver coins worth of magic crystals. Of course, if you want to increase its efficiency and use high-quality magic crystals, the consumption will naturally be higher. Hearing Suyi's response, Viscount Leslie and Butler Brunei on the side opened their eyes wide at the same time. It actually consumes this little? Even if it costs 15 silver coins a day, it's less than 5 gold coins a month. That's several times less than the large-scale frost array. Sue revealed a confident smile. If the consumption isn't several times less than the large-scale frost array, why would I research it? Viscount Leslie looked at Sue for a while before giving a slight nod. Very good, Sue. I can tell you now that if what you said is true, then I'm certain that this magic air conditioner will definitely sell well. Of course, it's impossible for it to sell in large quantities like the magic fan. But I think that the profit of this thing should be much higher than the magic fan, right? Sue said with a laugh. The Lord Viscount is wise. The profit of this thing is indeed several times higher than the magic fan. But to sell well, I'm afraid I'll need the Lord Viscount's help. What help do you need from me? Viscount Leslie looked at Sue with an interested gaze. Just tell me, I am a large shareholder, so there's no need to be polite when it comes to me. Lord Viscount, the thing I want you to do is actually very simple. Chapter 38. It was another night. There was a large manor to the west of Banta City that was filled with all kinds of luxurious horse carriages. There were countless people wearing luxurious clothes who had the aura of nobles wandering around the manor. This manor that was normally very quiet was suddenly filled with noise. If someone familiar with the nobles of Banta City was here, they would easily find that the people in this manor were mostly nobles of Banta City. If one had sharp eyes, they would find that in the deepest part of the manor, there was a middle-aged man with a strong figure and a serious face that was currently talking to the owner of the manor. This middle-aged man was the most powerful person in Banta City, which was Banta City's city lord, Lord Count Sean Samo. As for the handsome and young manor lord who was talking to the Lord City Lord, there was no one in the circle of nobles in Banta City who didn't know him. It was Viscount Leslie who was deeply loved by all the noble ladies and young misses. Viscount Leslie always liked peace and quiet, but now that he had suddenly announced a banquet, the nobles of Banta City were all shocked. Even if Viscount Leslie's reason for holding this banquet was a bit funny, saying that it was to celebrate the birth of a nephew in Anvilmar City, nobles liked banquets very much. They also liked to use banquets to improve their relationship, so the reason wasn't important. The important thing was that Viscount Leslie was actually holding a banquet. So all the nobles that received the invitation didn't reject it and all came. Other than these nobles, there was a small portion of the guests that weren't nobles. But if one looked carefully, they would find that these guests that weren't nobles were all people with status in Banta City. There wasn't a single person that was a normal citizen that didn't attract attention. No one was surprised by this situation. How could an unrelated citizen enter a banquet held by Lord Viscount Leslie? So Sue obediently hid in a corner, trying his best not to attract anyone's attention. With his status, he really wasn't qualified to enter. Even if the new flyer earned a large amount from the magic fan, if one seriously considered it, they could only be considered a small company that had just started. In Banta City, even if there weren't 100 small companies like this, there were still 80, so Sui naturally wasn't considered anything. As for relying on his identity as a magician? What a joke. Sui hadn't even passed the Sorcerers Guild's certification test. He wasn't even an official magician, so how could he be qualified to attend this banquet? Although Sui was not bad-looking, in this kind of situation, he naturally would not attract too much attention. Logically speaking, if he wanted to hide, it would not be a problem. However, beside this inconspicuous green leaf, there was a delicate and dazzling flower that was as beautiful as the bright moon in the night sky, so beautiful that it was impossible to ignore. So boring. Steele sighed and complained to Sui. Sui, I thought that Viscount Leslie's banquet would be quite fun, but I never thought that it would be as boring as the other banquets. Sui couldn't help rolling his eyes at her. Didn't I already tell you that this was a normal banquet? What can I do if you don't believe me? Humph. You're not embarrassed to say this to me? Steele angrily said. Who was it that kept telling me that the banquets of nobles were boring, and that it was better to use the time to study magic arrays at home? Sui rubbed his face. All right, it was me. Then if a fellow like you came to this banquet, of course I would find it strange. I thought that there was something special about this banquet that attracted you, but I never thought that there was nothing special at all. I was happy for nothing. Steele pretended to be angry. Sui looked over still. This little girl had clearly been carefully dressed today. She was wearing a light purple dress that perfectly accentuated her figure, and her casually tied-up golden hair perfectly revealed her slender white neck, giving her a noble and elegant aura. Compared to this, her almost perfect facial features had a youthful aura that was filled with vitality. With these two different tastes mixed together, it made her look very charming. It was no wonder that everyone who passed by couldn't help secretly taking a few glances at her. She had only been standing here for less than half an hour, and there were over 10 young men who came to talk to her. If it wasn't for Sui standing on the side, this number would have increased by several times. If there's anything special, of course there is. Sui took a sip of his juice and helplessly explained to Steele. Steele, do you remember what we researched a few days ago? Steele was a bit surprised. You're talking about the magic air conditioner, right? Sui nodded. Since Steele joined the research facility, she naturally joined the research of the magic air conditioner. It should be said that the magic air conditioner could be developed this quickly because Steele played a large part in it. How is the magic air conditioner related to this banquet? Steele was even more confused. Sui revealed a faint smile. Don't you think that with all these people in this room, it isn't that hot? Being reminded by Sui, Steele immediately came back to her senses. She looked around in a daze and found that on the walls of the hall used to entertain guests, there were 2 magic air conditioners that kept blowing out cool air. It was no wonder the hall didn't feel hot at all. Sui, it can't be that you and Viscount Leslie are working together, right? Steele couldn't help asking. What do you mean by working together? This is called cooperation. Sui reprimanded. Steele, actually according to the normal procedure, you as the spokesperson should participate in this matter, but I saw that you weren't interested in promoting products in front of all these people, so I gave up on this idea. Humph, I wouldn't run in front of others and say, hello, come and buy our products, right? That would be too stupid. Steele said in a voice of disdain. You didn't include this when you told me about being the spokesperson. Right, so I gave up on this very tempting idea. Then again, this is indeed a waste. Sui looked at Steele again before saying with a smile, letting an outstanding beauty like you become a salesman, if others knew about this, they would definitely scold me for wasting God's gift. Hearing Sui's words, Steele immediately revealed a smile. She quickly turned in a circle in front of Sui and proudly said, Don't you think that I'm very beautiful today? No, it's not today. I've always thought that you're very beautiful. Of course, you're especially beautiful today. Steele became even more proud. She slightly raised her head and gave a soft snort. You know how to speak. After pausing, she immediately asked, Right, since you and Viscount Leslie are working together, why didn't I see Viscount Leslie promoting this magic air conditioner for you? Sue couldn't help smiling. Viscount Leslie is a respected Lord Viscount. How could he come here to promote products? This kind of thing should be done by a businessman like me who is covered in the stench of money. After saying this, he looked at Steele before continuing. Now that I'm going to be a salesman, if you're not willing, you can just wait for me here. Steele rolled her eyes and quickly caught up to Sue. Let me see how a profiteer like you promote. Sue revealed a faint smile. His eyes looked around the hall and locked onto a rather dignified middle-aged man. Honorable Viscount Zedeman, Madam, hello. Viscount Zedeman and Madam turned around and looked at this young man who had suddenly appeared, feeling a bit confused. May I ask who you are? I am Sue, the chairman of New Flyer. This is my companion, she is Steele, the granddaughter of great magician Camilla. I've seen her a few times before. Viscount Zedeman spoke first. Steele quickly gave a bow to the two of them. Grandfather has always said that Sir Viscount Zedeman is an upright person and is one of the few nobles he appreciates. Now that I've seen you, I agree with Grandfather's evaluation. Viscount Zedeman laughed. Naturally, he wouldn't take these words seriously. When he turned to Sue, he revealed a trace of doubt. You just said that you're the chairman of New Flyer? Yes, Sir Viscount. New Flyer. New Flyer. I seem to have heard this name somewhere before. Viscount Zedeman knit his brows and thought for a bit. He turned to ask his wife, but he still didn't receive a clear answer. Sir Viscount, I think you should have heard this name from your young master Orin, right? Sue reminded him. Viscount Zedeman was stunned, but he suddenly remembered. Right, that kid Orin mentioned it. Oh, now that you mention it, I've completely remembered it. I've heard Orin say that he seems to be working in a workshop under your New Flyer. Oh no, a factory? It seems like he's making something. Right, magic fans? Isn't that right? Sue nodded with a faint smile. Lord Viscount, I thought that you would be angry after remembering this matter. Viscount Zedeman was stunned. Why would I be angry? Because I originally thought that if you knew that your son was working in an ordinary factory, you would feel embarrassed. So before I came to see you, I hesitated for a long time and mustered up my courage to come. Steele on the side almost broke out in laughter. When Sue saw Viscount Zedeman, he didn't stop at all as he walked over. How did he look like he needed to gather his courage at all? Viscount Zedeman laughed. Chairman Sue, you're thinking too much. That kid Orin is good at everything, but I've always been worried that he couldn't take hardships and didn't have patience. I never thought that he would be able to work in your factory for this long. It can be seen that he has made quite a bit of progress. I can only feel happy about this. How could I feel ashamed? That's right, although Orin looks very tired every time he comes home, I can tell that he is actually very happy. Viscount Zedeman's wife on the side also added in. To be honest, he's grown this big and it's very rare for him to be this happy. Chairman Sue, although I don't know what he's doing there, to be able to make him this happy as his mother, I have always wanted to thank you. It's nothing, it's nothing. Sue quickly waved his hand. Lord Viscount and Madam are too polite. Orin has actually helped me quite a bit. To be honest, the core component of our company's magic fans is the magic array and Orin is in charge of this work. Not only can he complete the design, he can also give suggestions on how to improve it, so I've given him a special reward for this. During this time, he has been in charge of researching and producing the magic air conditioner, which has also helped me quite a bit. Speaking of this, I should be thanking the Lord Viscount and Madam for raising such an outstanding son. No matter what world it was, parents would always be happy when others praised their children. Viscount Zedeman and his wife were not an exception. Ha ha, Chairman Sui, you're praising Oren too much. Right? You said that he was in charge of researching some magic air conditioner? What is this thing? Is it related to the magic fan? Seeing the curious look on Viscount Zedimund's face, Steele couldn't help looking at Sui. This fellow, he actually caught the fish like this. As expected, Sui calmly replied, "Speaking of the magic air conditioner, there is one in this room." Chapter 39. Late at night, the banquet at Viscount Leslie's manor was finally over. The guests had all left and the manor was quiet again. In the messy hall after the banquet, Viscount Leslie looked at Sui talking to Steele, and he couldn't hide the praise on his face. It was like Steele had guessed, this banquet was held at Sui's request. The most important goal was to promote Sui's newly developed magic air conditioner. Sui had set the magic air conditioner as a high-grade product, so naturally it was targeted at people with status in Banta City. The most important thing was that they had money. At this banquet, because of Viscount Leslie's intentional actions, it could be said that all the guests met this requirement. Sui's request to Viscount Leslie was just this. He didn't ask him to fully participate. So Viscount Leslie didn't know what Sui would do, but he knew that Sui had gained quite a bit from this banquet. Because at the banquet there were quite a few guests who came to talk to Viscount Leslie, and they would mention the two conspicuous magic air conditioners. After learning the price and daily consumption of the magic air conditioner, these guests all revealed their desire to buy it. Even the Lord City Lord, Count Sean Samo, wasn't an exception. So Viscount Leslie was certain that this magic air conditioner would become popular among the nobles of Banta City soon. The one who caused this trend, in the eyes of those nobles, was probably him, Viscount Leslie. If those fellows knew that all of this was planned by Sui, I wonder what they would think? Viscount Leslie thought in his heart. At this time, Sui finished talking to Steele and walked over. "Lord Viscount, tonight's banquet was quite successful, I have to thank you," Sui said with a smile. "There's no need to thank me, I am still a major shareholder of the Frestec Chamber of Commerce." Viscount Leslie shook his head. "I do have a question for you. Sui, there are only so many nobles and rich people in Banta City. Your magic air conditioner can only be sold in limited quantities, so the profit can't compare to the magic fan, right?" "You don't have to worry about that," Sui chuckled. "Since the magic air conditioner is a mid to high-grade product, the sales plan is naturally different from the magic fan. I have already signed an agreement with Saltan City's Farsak Chamber of Commerce. After a while, we will open a store in Saltan City, specially selling our new Flyers product. When the time comes, the Shinfei brand magic air conditioner will also enter Saltan City." Saltan City. Viscount Leslie suddenly thought of something. Oh right, there were two nobles from Saltan City who came to visit their relatives at the banquet today. You couldn't have come into contact with them, right? Sui smiled and nodded. "Lord Viscount, your reaction is really fast." Viscount Leslie's gaze looking at Sui instantly became a bit more serious. If this fellow had even calculated this point beforehand, then it would be too terrifying. But thinking about it, Viscount Leslie couldn't help admiring his own foresight. It was a good thing that he had already seen that Sui wasn't normal from the previous events and decided to cooperate with him. Otherwise, if he missed this chance, he would have missed many other opportunities. Not mentioning anything else, just based on the large sales of the magic fan, Viscount Leslie had already earned over 1,000 gold coins in less than a month. Even with Viscount Leslie's net worth, 1,000 gold coins was not a small amount. Moreover, Viscount Leslie firmly believed that as the new flyer became stronger, the income from his 30% share would gradually increase. In the end, it would far surpass 1,000 gold coins. "Lord Viscount, Other than the magic air conditioner, there is something else I want to discuss with you. Sui then said. Oh? What is it? Just say it. Sui was silent for a bit before saying, Lord Viscount, it's about to enter September, shouldn't your territory enter the autumn harvest stage? Viscount Leslie was stunned. He never thought that Sui would suddenly change the topic to this. Ah, that's right, it's almost the autumn harvest. Why are you asking this? Sui laughed. Do you still remember the little slave I bought from you last time? The reason why I bought her at that time was because she had lost a cow. This would have seriously affected the autumn harvest, so the guards almost beat her to death. Viscount Leslie had naturally heard Butler Brunei report this matter. He looked at Sui and said with a cold snort, What? Could it be that you want to seek justice for that little slave? Let me tell you, it is very difficult to successfully cultivate a qualified cattle. The value of a cattle is much higher than that of a slave. She actually lost a cow, beating her to death is letting her off easy. Sui gave a sigh in his heart. He thought that even if he was very familiar with Viscount Leslie, he still couldn't change the indifference Viscount Leslie had towards slaves in his heart. Of course, Viscount Leslie's attitude towards slaves was normal on the signs. Sui didn't have the ability to change this, so he naturally had other motives for mentioning this matter. Lord Viscount's meaning is that cows are hard to come by and are very important to the farm, so they have a high value, right? Sui asked. Of course it's like this. I say, Sui, what do you want to say after all this time? Viscount Leslie was a bit impatient. Sui laughed. Then Lord Viscount, if I could find a tool to replace cows, how much would you be willing to spend to buy it? Viscount Leslie doubtfully looked at Sui. Could it be that you've invented a magic machine that can work in the fields? That isn't realistic, right? The work in the fields is that complicated. What kind of machine can replace cows? Just think of it as an analogy. Lord Viscount, if this machine can replace cows and its efficiency far surpasses cows, what kind of price would you accept? Viscount Leslie thought about it before opening his palm. 50 gold coins for one, I'll take as many as you have. Sui's eyes lit up. Lord Viscount, is this true? Nonsense. Viscount Leslie snappily said. It isn't like you don't know that most of my territory is barren. It is because I don't have enough people to work it, so there's no other way. If there is the magic machine you're talking about, of course I can have as many as I want. It would be best if I could fill all my territory with them. Other than that, I'm certain that not only me but also Banta City, even the entire Lampari Kingdom, and even the entire Signs, all the nobles need this thing. If you can really develop this kind of magic machine, I can guarantee that there will be a wild rush to buy it. After saying this, Viscount Leslie couldn't help asking, Hey, Sui, it can't be that you've really developed it, right? This thing isn't a joke. Sui revealed a faint smile and shook his head. Of course not, it's just an idea right now. But now that I've received such an exciting answer from the Lord Viscount, I'm even more interested in developing this thing. Seeing the mysterious smile on Sui's face, Viscount Leslie's heart was clear. This kid, perhaps he really has developed it. Actually, Viscount Leslie had wronged Sui. Even though when he saw Vivian almost being beaten to death for losing a cow, Sui had already made up his mind to research farming machines. But before this, not only did he not have the time, he didn't have the funds or the manpower to research this thing. So this thing had always existed in his ideas, and hadn't become a reality at all. Now was different from before. Although Sui didn't have enough time, he had quite a few more people under him. The most important ones were the 100 dwarves from Master Lanus' tribe. With the support of these dwarves who weren't weaker than Master Lanus, Sui was able to agree to Chairman Farsak and provide him with the machines for the second-generation magic fan. But the work for this batch of machines wasn't that big, so the dwarves didn't need much time to finish it all. Right now, other than studying the machine knowledge Sui gave them, they were in a state of leisure most of the time. So Sui thought of farming machines. Actually, to Sui, for a world like Signs that didn't have a high level of technology and production, farming machines were the most important thing. It was like Viscount Leslie said, a large part of his territory was barren because he didn't have enough people. If this was spread to all Signs, one could imagine how much barren land there would be on the continent. However, in comparison to this, the grain yield of Signs had always been at a low level. This directly caused the average living standards of the people on the continent to be very low. Even in a small Banta city, there were news of people starving to death each year. Sui had learned from a conversation with Hines that 11 years ago, there was a large-scale famine in Signs because of the abnormal climate. At that time, there were starving people all over, and it even caused the entire continent to be shaken. Several small countries were destroyed in a single night because of this. Hines's terrified expression when he talked about this matter was still fresh in Sui's mind. Sui, who had transmigrated from the highly developed Earth, had never seen this kind of scene before. But just based on his imagination, he knew how terrifying this scene was. So he was even more determined to study farming machines. If I can improve the living standards of the people on the continent, perhaps my transmigration into this world will have a meaning. Sui looked at the starry night sky and thought in his heart, "You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories."